Fait appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le Sénateur Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Ferguson.
Présente.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lafondre.
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Valois.
Présente.
Madame le Sénateur Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le Sénateur Pallet. Monsieur le Sénateur Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément. Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre. Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Juan.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le Député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Southern.
Présent.
Madame le Député de Grouville.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Tadier. Monsieur le Député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Masson. Madame le Député Pinel.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Martin.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Juan.
Présent.
Madame le Député Dublay.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Labbé.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Wickenden.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Young.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Morel.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Guida.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le Député Le Hégara.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Ayer. Madame le Député Pershaw. Monsieur le Député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le Député Alves.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le Député Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de la conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit, que toute l'heure de l'opération et ton accompagné de la bénédiction. Réussisse au bien et au soulagement du peuple, qu'il de plus de commettre à leurs soins. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant, Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne. Ta volonté soit faite dans la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonnons nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi la reine, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le Sénateur Farnham.
He's already.
Still present.
Monsieur le Sénateur Pallet.
Present.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément.
Le connétable est malade.
Vous jurez que Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Masson.
Deputy Tadier didn't
Oh,
answer.
pardon. Monsieur le Deputy Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Masson.
Excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy Ayer.
Présent.
Madame le Deputy Pershard.
Excusez.
Monsieur le Président.
Les États sont constitués. There are no items under A. There are a number of subordinate enactments under B, and a number of matters have been presented or laid. They are described in the consolidated order paper under C. The following items have been lodged under section D. Draft States of Jersey Police Force Amendment number 3, Law P10, Second Amendment, lodged by the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. Draft States of Jersey Police Force Amendment number 3, Law Third Amendment, lodged by the same panel. Pedestrian Priority in Broad Streets and Helier P28, Second Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Infrastructure. Regulation of 0 hours contracts P32, Amendment lodged by the Minister for Social Security. States Members' Remuneration, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee P40. Draft Amendment number 52 of the Standing Orders P41, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee. And Youth Service Provision P42, lodged by Senator Valois. There has been a withdrawal of a lodged proposition, the Draft States of Jersey Police Force Amendment number 3, Law Third Amendment, by the Children, Education, Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. That was at P10. There was nothing under F, G and H. Under I, there are of course a number of written questions, the answers of which have been lodged. And we come now to oral questions. And the first question will be asked by Senator Mezek of the Minister for Children and Education. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Given the high number of new homes being planned in the St Helier town area, including South Hill, The Limes and Ann Street, what action is the Minister taking to ensure that there are adequate educational facilities to cater for the growth in population?
Minister.
Jersey Property Holdings are currently carrying out a review of the St Helier Primary School estate, which will recommend the optimal distribution in school sizes with a view to informing the future use, for example, sir, of the Rouge Beaulieu Fire Rescue and former police station site. The comprehensive review is being carried out in conjunction with SLIPES officers to ensure the distribution of the schools meets population distribution and demographic requirements. We expect that review to be completed in approximately the next 4 to 6 weeks. That is an estimate, but after that it has to work its way up through the systems. It needs to be considered by the Corporate Asset Board, the Regeneration Steering Group, and then ultimately the Council Ministers before any final decisions are made. Exactly.
Thank you, sir. How does this fit in with the island plan then? Because we have before us something which the states will have to consider and consider amendments to, which show a desire in the plan for an increased population in town, but at this point, nothing in there to identify where educational facilities may go in the town basin and all of the travel problems that can come about from that. So why has he allowed a mismatch to happen where that work on the estate is coming after the island plan?
I think this is about, don't forget the island plan is a bridging plan, sir. And the point is this is around looking at our existing estate and in the round, sir, about what sites we have available and whether, therefore, the Rouge Beaulieu site should, for example, extend into the police station area, sir, or fire station area, or whether alternatives should be considered, sir. So I don't think, I would say it's complementary too, sir.
Right, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, what is his definition of adequate for these schools? Given, is it a definition in terms of space? And given, is it in terms of the quality of the facility? Given the real problems that town schools face, how will he address that and how will he define adequate? Thank you, sir.
So obviously that will come out as well from the review, but it is very much about the provision of high quality primary education. But obviously there will be a variety of factors that are taken into account. They will include cost and financially effective, but it has to be operationally effective, sir, as well. And I go back to that fundamental point of providing high-quality primary education.
Supplementary, Deputy, yes.
Thank you, sir. So I'll push again in terms of high-quality education. That's a very good statement to have. But is the Minister aware that the facilities of some town schools are becoming an obstacle to education, simply through leaky roofs and a lack of space? And how quickly will this address that issue, or will we wait until after the next election? Thank you, sir.
So in terms of, right, that splits into two, sir. In terms of identifying future use and sites, the expectations there, that will be cleared very, very much before the next elections. I emphasise expectation. That's the basis that we've been informed that the site considerations will be concluded, as I said, in approximately 4 to 6 weeks, but I do emphasise it has to work its way up through the system. In terms of maintenance, sir, if there are specific issues, please, could the Deputy come back to me with details, sir. We have put quite a lot of money back into education that is different to the infrastructure, as it were, and it is an area, sir, that we are looking in the round. And by that I mean assessing overall effectiveness of the various structures we have in place. However, sir, I'm not up to speed in terms of infrastructure on where we are on what used to be the backlog maintenance scenario. I believe we have taken steps to address some of that. But obviously, if there are further issues I'm unaware of, I'm grateful for the Deputy to let me know.
Conrad St Saviour?
Yes, sir. Like St Helier, St Saviour's is overrun, and I am very disappointed with what the Chief Minister is telling us, because I have made inquiries about schools. I have written to every primary school in my parish, and they are full to capacity, and they have waiting lists. And yet, on the plans that we've been receiving in the parish, for all the houses they wish to put in my parish, there is no mention of playing areas, and there is no mention of schools. So how on earth are we going to have these people living in a parish where there's no schools for their children, and there are no areas for them to play? Maybe the Chief Minister can tell me. Thank you.
So the only analogy I can use is that certainly within, I think, my political time, we'll see that the state's approved and constructed a new primary school up behind Government School. And my understanding is that is a better facility and has larger capacity. And therefore, sir, it's a case of accepting, I think, at the very least, we know there are 1 or 2 schools that do need a significant refurbishment, and so the whole point of identifying this first part of the work is to then identify whether they, taking account of some of the demographics that have been referred to, some of the plans, and obviously I've referred to St Helier, I think I'm talking actually in the urban nature rather than the parish nature, sir, that I would expect all those factors to be taken into account when they look at our schools presently located in the right location. And then it will come down to, so as we know, there is money in the government plan for investment into schools. Hopefully that will address some of the backlog maintenance issues that other speakers have referred to. But I would agree that we do need to be looking at this in the round, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, Conrad.
Sir, I have St Luke's School, which is old and cannot be refurbished. I have St Saviour's School, which cannot be extended. I have most of my schools, nothing can happen to them. So I want to know how we are going to magic an area where we can put children in school. You're saying the children, I never signed the form because everybody is important in my parish. But you're saying that primary school is important. Well, where are you going to put these families that you're putting in my parish? Where are they going to be able to educate their children? And there's nothing at all in the plans.
Well.
Not even a hint of maybe they will be doing something. And I'm absolutely disgusted. I think it's a shame. You're putting people in the parish and you're not bothering with them.
Conrad.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I apologise.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I want to know how they're going to come up with a plan to house these children that they're putting in my parish.
So we seem to have gone slightly off track the point was is that we are doing a review, and that's part of the purpose of the work, is to look at the overall primary school estate and look at the distribution and the sizes. Part of that was triggered by looking at the Rouge Bouillon site and the Fire and Rescue Service site to whether it's practical from an educational point of view to combine those two, but also, sir, considering other requirements within the public sector as a whole, i.e., for example, emergency services. And therefore, sir, my expectation is that when that work is completed, hopefully that will give us some solution that will address, I won't promise it will address all of the Connettab's concerns, but will be addressing some. And that is around the demographic side that people, I think, have rightly identified, sir.
Well, I next have Deputy Gardner, then Deputy Southern, Deputy Doublé, the Connettabs, and Helier in the final supplementary. I'll take no more questions other than those. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Chief Minister mentioned Rouge Bouillon, school extension and police station, fire and rescue services. Would Chief Minister agree that the school should be in the area where children live and the fire rescue services can be located somewhere in the central area of the island to be able to respond?
So the purpose of the review is to basically identify what is the best location for both. What I will say is that state members or the states in the past have had views, i.e. Can't we do X or can't we do Y? And to do X or Y, we also have to do D, for the sake of argument. In this case, D might be move the fire station. Unfortunately, we then don't actually identify where D should go. And we then spend many years trying to resolve D in order to sort out the first two problems. So what we're trying to do, sir, is get the overall holistic approach, sir. I would point out that whilst the fire station is, the point is that the fire station is located relatively centrally, it is on the ring road, and it also gives access to one of them, if relatively quick access in a number of directions for one, obviously, where the majority, a significant proportion of people on the island live, and therefore where the most people are will tend to be proportionately, this is me speaking as a layman, where you'll get more emergencies that need to be addressed. So one has to take into account the demands of the emergency services as well as the demands of the, as the Deputy rightly refers to, the requirements of pupils. And that is the purpose of the review, to take those matters into account, sir.
Very much. Supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, Chief Minister. I still wasn't sure if Chief Minister agreed with me that the school should be where children live, but is Chief Minister aware that the catchment areas were not amended for the 15 years, and definitely during the 15 years St. Helier and St. Xavier grew up? When the review and amendments of the catchment area will take place and it will be updated?
Sir, I don't have that information to hand. I will inquire of officers and come back, sir, and I'll update the Deputy accordingly.
Well, Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I look to the island plan and the education bit where it says the redevelopment of existing public or private education sites and facilities for alternative uses in whole or in part will not be supported except and only where it can be demonstrated that the site or part of it is surplus to public and private educational requirements or wider community needs. What then does the Chief Minister consider how that applies to Rouge Bouillon School in particular?
So I haven't got that section of the plan directly in front of me, but my interpretation of what the Deputy just said is protecting the sites so that they are not used for purposes other than for which they are presently used. And by that I mean protecting the educational sites and saying they essentially can't suddenly be converted into housing, i.e. they return their fundamental core purpose. However, sir, if at the end of that lot, and there are opportunities, sir, it would appear, one is to turn around and say, actually, we can build for example, a primary school at location X, and that can better serve the needs of the community, then that would probably be what, and then there would be consequences that come out of that. But the priority, sir, I would not wish anyone listening to think that if a part of a school site was suddenly freed up on a temporary basis, i.e. wasn't required because of pupil capacity, that suddenly we would be rushing to fill it with housing. We've got to make sure, sir, that the long-term requirements of the education service are met, but in the context, sir, of all other requirements as well. And by that I mean, sir, that doesn't automatically mean that education will trump the fire and rescue service at Rouge Beaulieu or the other way around. That's the purpose of the reviews.
Sir.
Supplementary, Deputy, yes.
Thank you, sir. Is it not the case that the school is currently competing with the fire station? Isn't that the reality?
I don't like the word competing, sir, because obviously at the end of the day, sir, the fire service is occupying the site, has been occupying for many, many years. Therefore, so that's what we've got to take in the round. I've referred to, we've got two sets of needs. One is the recognised need for Rouge Beaulieu School to be able to expand and also be significantly upgraded, sir. And also the requirement to provide a good location for the fire and rescue service and other blue light services, sir. Those two need to come through, and that's why we talk about, and why I'm trying to refer to, sir, the overall, if you like, public estate, I won't say strategy, sir, but the interactions of the different requirements within the public estate.
Well, Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. My original question was asked by the Constable St. Saviour, so I have a question about Rouge Beaulieu, following on from the previous questioner. Has the Chief Minister visited Rouge Beaulieu, and is he aware of the amount of outdoor play space that there is at the school, and does he think that it's adequate currently?
The short answer, sir, no, I've not visited the site of Rouge Beaulieu, sir. I have visited some of our, a variety of our either new schools or existing, shall we say, other schools, sir. But as the Deputy is aware, the role I'm fulfilling has only come into my purview relatively recently.
Supplementary, Deputy Doublé.
Yes, please, sir. Given that the Chief Minister is currently also the Education Minister, would he commit to visiting some of the schools and starting with Rouge Beaulieu, please?
Sir, I have, as I said, visited a number of schools, and some of the Assistant Ministers, sir, have also been visiting some of the schools, sir.
Very well. Constable St. Saviour.
Thank you, sir. Would the Chief Minister not agree with me that this review is an excuse for inaction? The Council of Ministers has known for the best part of a decade that Rouge Beaulieu needs more space. Is the Chief Minister seriously suggesting that Rouge Beaulieu Primary School is going to be moved as a result of this review? And if he's not suggesting that, will he commit to visiting the school and to understanding for himself how short of space the school is?
Chief Minister.
So the short answer is I will wait for the outcome of the review. I've said it. I've been informed, as has the Constable, I think, that it's going to take between 4 and 6 weeks for it to be completed. And at that point, sir, we can then go down the various actions that need to be undertaken. Let's be clear. We've said we put children first, and education facilities are being invested in. The education service is being significantly invested in under this government. But, sir, what I'm not going to do at this stage is favour one option over another, because all that does is create yet another problem. For example, where we locate the fire station. That in itself, sir, will also generate huge amounts of difficulties, and I can see us being mired into that discussion for a long, long time. Until one resolves both those scenarios at similar times, we will not put a solution to either of the problems. So let's wait and see what the outcome is that comes through. I do know they're looking at a variety of sites that hopefully will come free over the next few years.
Supplementary comment?
Yes, sir. Is it not the case that the Chief Minister has already prejudged the review by the Council of Ministers accepting the Minister of Home Affairs request to co-site the emergency services on the Rouge Beaulieu site that was formerly occupied by the police station? How can he genuinely say that he's waiting for the outcome of the review when there clearly will not be space for the school to expand, and I haven't heard him say that he thinks Rouge Bouillon should be relocated.
Sir, all I can say is, as far as I'm concerned, no final decision has been made, and we are awaiting the outcome of the review, sir.
Final supplementary, Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister accept the basic fact that's a reality for all too many people in town, that the educational facilities in town are inadequate? And if he does accept that, will he undertake as a matter of priority to demonstrate to the Assembly, but particularly the St Helier representatives, what action will be taken to provide new and better facilities for our children and young people in town, so that they can go to a decent school building with enough places to accommodate everyone and provide everything that goes along with that, including the safe travel routes, so that we truly put children first in this way.
So I'm sorry to hear the level of negativity in the Senator's question, sir. I accept, sir, that not everything is perfect. But, sir, on the schools I have visited, some of which have been in the town area, I've seen happy children and I've seen dedicated staff. And that has got to be important. We know, sir, there is a significant amount of there is significant investment required within the education system. That is why the last government plan has put in something like £40 million over the next few years to invest into education, sir. What I will say, sir, this debate, if you like, or mini debate, is around buildings. And certainly the last time I looked, sir, any building of particular size, including any significant refurbishments of facilities, usually takes several years. One is not going to magic the solution up in the next few weeks or months, even if it's before the elections, just to satisfy those sort of requirements. One's got to get it right. I'm hoping, therefore, expecting that this review that's coming through from Property Holdings in about 4 to 6 weeks' time, will give us insight into their thoughts. And I have not made any preconceived thoughts on these. I'm waiting the outcome of what I hope is an objective and expect to be an objective review, sir.
Very well, we come to question 2. The Deputy IEA will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy IEA.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise the Assembly what oversight, if any, is in place in respect of companies who receive public funds through the co-funded payroll scheme? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. There is a wide variety of controls and oversight in operation to help ensure that businesses in receipt of subsidies under the co-funded payroll scheme have claimed in accordance with the scheme's rules. These include various checks that are performed by customer and local services before a claim is paid, and others that are conducted retrospectively when claims are audited. These checks include the requirement to provide evidence of the fall in income that has been experienced. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. With many end-of-year accounts now being published, will the Minister be requesting funds to be returned to the Treasury by those companies who have made a healthy profit or increased their profits in 2020? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, several businesses have had to repay funds identified to date, really relating to the co-funded payroll scheme phase 2, which ran from April 2020 until the end of August 2020. That phase of the scheme was open to any businesses that experienced a percentage fall in income of 30% or more. In a majority of cases, businesses have to repay had they miscalculated their percentage fall, and a small number of business cases had voluntarily decided to repay also. Thank you.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, will any errors identified be made public, and will they be chased up, somewhat like Social Security, when most vulnerable individuals face overpayments which can track them for many, many years of their life?
Yes, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, sir, the oversight of all the payroll scheme funding is very tight, and obviously there's public health restrictions that have been enforced as well when the legal side of the projects were sometimes ignored. So yes, and I've not been aware, if the Deputy, if I understand Deputy correctly, of any fraudulent claims. Nothing has been reported. Thank you.
Supplementary, Deputy?
Yes, please. May I ask the Minister, if we are in a situation where companies who claim from the payroll scheme in coming years make significant increases in their profits, will the Minister be addressing taxation of those profits in order to pay back some of the money that was given to support them during this time? Thank you, sir.
That is not on the cards at the moment, sir, on the basis that if they have not had the detriment to their company business that was expected, they are having to repay that back, as I mentioned in my last answer. And if they've made profits, then they cease to be contenders for the payroll scheme.
Right, Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister satisfied that the staff processing applications for the co-funded payroll scheme have a clear enough understanding of the way different businesses and different businesses of different sizes maintain their accounts and report their accounts? Because I'm receiving reports of businesses where in interacting with customer and local services, where the staff are located, maintain that those staff clearly have no understanding of the way that businesses actually show their accounts.
Well, so far with the scheme, it seems to have been very successful, and I'm not aware of any shortcomings in customer and local services dealing with the claims. Thank you.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I'll be pleased to speak to the Treasury Minister to advise her of such shortcomings. But is the Minister also satisfied that whilst it's important to process applications according to rules, that there is that customer and local services staff are at times acting in a manner which is so inflexible that they have put incredible pressure on very small businesses who are struggling, who have struggled through COVID and are struggling to maintain the levels of bureaucracy that are required?
Thank you, sir. If it helps the Deputy, I can say what some of the upfront controls include is that confirming that business licenses are in place, checking the employee eligibility against social security contribution schedules, and confirming staff numbers are in line with the number of people employed at the start of the pandemic in March 2020. Those are some of the ones. There are obviously plenty more of the controls and oversight in place. And there's also retrospective controls, which is cross-checking against other data submitted to government, such as tax and social security contribution submissions. Thank you, sir.
Well, Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister state whether it was permissible for employers who received 80% of the wages of their employees from the state to, once they receive those funds, reduce the hours of their employees, so in fact they were only being paid the money that was being received from the states and nothing from the employer?
Thank you, sir. I can't go into the details of each business. It would take the rest of the day. But they are very strongly audited to ensure that they have correctly declared the loss of income that they have suffered.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes, Deputy.
I know the Minister can't go into individual cases, but can she say, was it in the spirit of the co-funding scheme that firms, once they receive the government's money, would not put any of their own money into paying the wages of their employees? It would all be coming from the states.
No, sir, that was not foreseen, because that was the way the funding scheme worked, is the percentage was paid by the employer and a small percentage by the states and a small percentage by the employer, and the percentage varied on the business description.
Well, Deputy Sutton. Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Again, can I ask about this detriment to the business? Who and how was it decided that the criteria for qualification for support should be detriment to the business and not profits?
Thank you, sir. That would have been decided at the beginning of the scheme when we brought it into effect in March 2020. Every business is different. Quite a lot of self-employed people didn't realise that in order to claim, they had to have a business licence, for instance. So it has been obviously an experience of every business having a different portrayal of what their profit and loss is. So it's not possible to give an overall answer to that.
Supplementary, Deputy Sutton?
If I may, sir, yes. Earlier on in her words, she said that oversight was very tight. Can she explain to members in detail what she thinks that very tight oversight was? What was actually happening?
I thought, sir, that I'd rather answered that in confirming again business licenses are in place, the eligibility against social security contribution schedules, staff numbers are in line with the number of people employed, audits of businesses to ensure that they have correctly declared the loss of income that they have suffered. So there are a lot of, and then there are a range of controls that are employed, somewhat behind the scenes, sounds a little remote, but that can't be revealed because otherwise it wouldn't be as effective as it currently is.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Ayer.
Thank you, sir. Have there been any instances of fraud from the scheme, and will companies be prosecuted if such evidence comes to light? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. No, the answer, no fraudulent claims have been reported to me, and I'm sure they would have done had there been a case. Thank you.
Very well, we now come to question 3. The Deputy Ward will ask the President of the Executive Committee of the Jersey section of the Assemblée Parlementaire de la Francophonie.
Thank you, sir. Following the protest by French fishermen over fishing rights under the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement, what communication has the President had with ministers, and what reassurances can he give, or has he given, that the current situation will not affect Jersey's otherwise strong links with France and those of its regions that neighbour us? Thank you, sir.
President.
I thank the Deputy for his question. It provides an opportunity to highlight that Jersey's relationship with our closest neighbours in France isn't solely defined by the circumstances that we witnessed last week. So as soon as I heard about the escalation of events last week, I wrote to the relevant ministers to request a briefing. Events were such that I didn't receive a dedicated briefing individually, but in fact, I think the next day we were all briefed collectively as states members, and I've since been updated by government officers on the efforts being made to address that situation.
Supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Does the Deputy in his role feel that anything else could have been done, and what concerns does he have for future relations that are beyond this dispute? And what else would he have wanted to have happened, sir? Thank you.
So the first thing is that I think, like so many of us, whether in the Assembly or not, I think I was saddened by the events. And of course, I don't think it's necessarily the time now to point fingers and to start to look at what could have been done better. I think there will be a time of reckoning. But I think that I know that ministers, as well as the rest of us, I'm sure, are keen to see a return to good relationships that we've previously maintained with Normandy, Brittany, and the rest of France. And I would emphasise that I think it's fair to say that this is a direct result of Brexit, and it's something that neither we as an island, our fishermen and women, and similarly those in Normandy and along the coast of France, it wasn't something that we asked for or that we voted for, yet we're having to deal with the consequences. But I am confident that that this doesn't provide, that there aren't sufficient grounds for why our strong relationships with France and the regions and our twinnings in terms of the parish shouldn't continue once this issue about fishing has been resolved.
Constance Brunard.
Thank you, sir. Le président de l'APF confirme-t-il qu'il soutient le conditionnement des licences de bateaux de pêche pour permettre aux autorités de Jersey de garantir que l'activité de pêche est correctement gérée en vue de conserver les stocks de poissons dans les eaux de Jersey, non seulement pour nos générations futures, mais aussi pour les pêcheurs de la zone adjacente côte française. Merci, monsieur.
Alors, je remercie mon collègue du comité connectable de Saint-Brelade. En fin de compte, il faut dire que le sujet de conditionnement des licences, c'est ultimement c'est pour le gouvernement de Jersey et celui de France de gérer ça, mais je pense que forcément il faut qu'il y ait un système pour maintenir et pour conserver les réserves de poissons qui existent où que ce soit dans la Manche, non seulement maintenant pour des raisons économiques, mais forcément pour des raisons environnementales. Et je dirais dans ce sens-là que nos intérêts, ceux de Jersey et ceux de la France et de la Normandie sont forcément liés, parce que il faut que nous arrivions de pêcher d'une manière efficace qui laisse les poissons et une économie pour le futur. Alors je remercie encore le collègue pour cette question.
Supplementary question, Connétable Saint-Brelade.
Merci, monsieur. Le président soutiendra-t-il la position du gouvernement en aidant les pêcheurs français à remplir les formalités administratives nécessaires pour soutenir les initiatives de conservation? Merci, monsieur.
Je vais être clair que ce n'est pas peut-être pour moi de donner un avis en tant que président de l'APF, parce qu'il faut que nous restions hors de la politique un petit peu quand même. Mais je pense que personnellement, il faut qu'il y ait je pense que c'est un bon système, en fait, que le gouvernement de Jersey a proposé d'aider les pêcheurs, par exemple, à remplir toutes les formalités administratives et peut-être aussi de fournir une ligne téléphonique pour qu'ils puissent appeler pour avoir des soutiens administratifs également dans leur langue. Je pense que ça me paraît une très bonne idée.
Yes, there's a point of order. St-Helier?
Yes, thank you, sir. While I understand that it's within the rights of members to speak in French or indeed in Algeria in the Assembly, is it not incumbent upon us to provide instant translation so that the hundreds of people listening who are concerned about our relationship with France can understand what we're saying?
Well, as you rightly observe, French is one of the official languages of the Assembly, and it is open to any member to ask a question or to deliver an answer in French. The risk, of course, that member runs is that they will simply not be understood by the large majority of people who may be listening, but my understanding is that a translation appears in Hansard when the answer is Hansarded, which, of course, happens relatively quickly. But this is not, it's not out of order for questions to be asked or answered in the French language.
Thank you, sir.
So given the fact we're still in time, I think we've got more time. I'm just happy to summarise the answers if that's thought to be helpful in English.
If you could just pause for a moment, I have to deal with a technical issue. If you pause for a moment, please. A technical issue has arisen whereby, for reasons that I can't explain, members of the public are being allowed to join the meeting. and that means that everything said in the chat is visible to them, and that is not, in my view, the appropriate way in which this assembly can function. Members should be free to raise points of order and all of those kinds of things in the chat, and therefore I'm going to adjourn the sitting for about 10 or 15 minutes, which will enable the matter to be rebooted, members to be invited once again, so that we will have the formal, the normal process available to us. So for 15 minutes, I stand adjourned. It stands adjourned, and we will come back as soon as we've dealt with that. Very well. I think the technical issues have been dealt with. I will allow 20 minutes of injury time for question times, but not 20 minutes for this question. Next to ask the question, I have Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. And I was wondering if I could ask Deputy Tallier, in his position as President de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Francophonie in Jersey, how he sees the closure of the Maison de Normandie and its effect on relations between Jersey and Normandy.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I mean, I think we were all perhaps slightly surprised and shocked, because whilst we know that it's normal for there to be discussions, even heated, passionate discussions about fishing rights post-Brexit and the relationship between Jersey and Normandy, I don't think anyone envisaged that. And from a personal point of view, it's not that I just work closely or have worked closely with both Maison de Normandie and the Alliance Française, which thankfully stays open. It's the fact that I also count them amongst, friends, if you like, in the sense that they do so much for Jersey, in particular the Maison de Normandie. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I suspect that this would have simply been a directive from their regional government to close the Maison de Normandie. And what I'm hoping is that it doesn't affect the longer term mutual respect and affinities that we have between Jersey, and I'm talking about, culturally, not just in terms of the hard economics of it, because I think we enrich each other's culture both ways when we engage constructively in all manner of ways with our neighbours across the water. And I don't think that we can necessarily speak publicly at the moment, because it's quite right that we don't prejudice any ongoing talks. But I'm pretty sure that sentiment is mutual, and that ordinary citizens on both sides of the water, they're aware that these things arise from time to time, but that our bonds are much stronger than any disputes that might come up periodically.
Supplementary question, Deputy Morel. Then I have Senator Mezek and final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Given that, does the President believe that Jersey's relations, or political relations with and cultural relations with Normandy and Brittany, have perhaps become, under the new ministerial system of government, have become devolved essentially to government on its own? And so does he see a wider role for an organisation like the APF, but also states members taking it upon themselves to build their own relations with France, so that we have non-governmental as well as governmental relations? Thank you, sir.
So I think in general terms, I agree with that sentiment that there's not one, nobody has the monopoly on making sure that we have good relationships with our neighbours in France and of strengthening those relationships. I don't think it's an inevitable fact that the current form of government has led to, for example, if we're going to call it a different way of operating that's perhaps not as effective. And I would look under any system to try and play to one's strengths. So I was heartened to see a press release yesterday that said functions have been moved, or some functions have been moved to the Environment Department, where we know, of course, we have our own native French speaker who is both a member of the APF, of our committee, but also an Assistant Minister of Environment. And I think that it's important that we all pull together, so we shouldn't be going off in different directions and, you know, firing off emails that are perhaps saying, oh, we love you people in Granville, and we can't wait to get back to you. I think there's an appropriate time to do that, whilst there are perhaps very tough conversations going on with external relations and with the Environment Department about the hard facts around fishing. But I think generally we do agree with the Deputy's comments that we've all got a role to play to make sure that whether it's soft diplomacy, cultural, environmental or economic, that we do strengthen our ties. And I hope that actually after this episode, our relationships with Normandy, Brittany and France as a wider country will be strengthened as a result.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, Sir. And this builds on Deputy Morell's question, and I know from my previous work on the St Helier Avalanche Twinning Committee that our relationship with the Maison de Normandie was really valuable, so it would be tragic if that loss was permanent. Would the President of the APF agree that when the timing is right, so after we've got through the worst of this tension and hopefully can look forward to returning to normality with our friendship with our neighbours, would he agree that some thinking could perhaps be done with the APF and potentially the parishes as well, who are all twinned with towns in France, most of them in Normandy itself, to look towards perhaps how we can step up that soft diplomacy with our friends in these neighbouring jurisdictions, in particular when COVID is over, so we can hopefully have those engagements in person, just so that we've opened these communication streams so that they might be useful in future when we want to resolve these issues without the sorts of tensions arising like they have recently.
Yeah, I thank the Senator for that question, and if I can answer perhaps in this way, is that I think that historically Jersey's always done best and most successfully as an island when it's recognised the fact that it is both British and has a strong French culture, as well as being hopefully more generally internationalist and welcoming. And my concern is that we've lost some of that, and whilst it's absolutely correct that we have strong relationships to the north, I think it's unfortunately been increasingly to the detriment of those relationships to the south and to the east, which we know is France. And I think we all need to get to a point where we recognise, yes, the APF, the Assemblée Parlementaire de la Francophonie, has got an important and vital role to play in relationships, not just with France, but the French-speaking world, in the same way that the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association has. And I think we all need to get together, and this is perhaps something I'd be happy to facilitate, to have a brainstorm and come up with real policies right through all of our departments, from the education system, so that we can ensure that people leaving school are no longer just monolingual, but that, you know, English-speaking students are also speaking French and other languages properly when they leave school, and right through the culture and the economy. And we have that debate about what kind of island we are, because, as I said, it's a personal point of view. Is that I think we've lost too much of our French and European culture and our uniqueness as an island. And that we need to recalibrate, if you like. And if the APF and our twinning organisations can do anything to strengthen that, then I think we'd be more than happy to do that.
Right, supplemental, Senator Mezek?
No, merci.
Very much. Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you for the considered debate, and to say merci, ban de fait.
Okay. We come on now to question number 4, that Deputy Southern will ask the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister state to what extent, if any, the Deputy Chief Minister was involved in the COVID business support schemes through which the Royal Yacht Hotel has claimed government support over recent months? And will the Chief Minister advise whether the scope for any such involvement by the Deputy Chief Minister was identified as a potential conflict of interest?
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir. The Deputy Chief Minister attended meetings of the Competent Authority Ministers, which considered and endorsed proposals relating to our pandemic response, including participating in discussions around how we support local businesses and their employees. In doing this, sir, the Deputy Chief Minister has always been at pains to make a declaration of his interests, which was understood and noted, and sir is consistent with his public declaration of interests, which is on the States Assembly website. It is worth noting, sir, if I use, for example, the payroll support scheme as an example, that scheme has supported 17,000 employees and 3,500 businesses, sir. And obviously it is the role of the Ministry of Economic Development, sir, to support local businesses, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy.
Is the Chief Minister saying that there is no question of a conflict of interest when the Assistant Minister concerned describes himself as a consultant to a recipient of benefits which he has helped to create?
Sir, firstly, sir, I should have actually added that if one looks at, for example, the payroll scheme that I'm used, that was actually, from recollection, was approved by the Treasury Minister, sir. And sir, as we've said, we've tried to apply the same criteria that we use for states members, i.e. if there is a direct and pecuniary interest, sir, obviously ministers have to withdraw, but sir, if it is one shared by a wider interest, sir, declarations of interest are expressed, sir.
Very well. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to ask the Chief Minister regards his answer about the declaration of interest. Does the Chief Minister not accept that a declaration of interest is not the same as a conflict of interest? One may declare an interest in an activity or a situation, but it's the action itself that has to be acted on. And does he see any problem with the position of his Assistant Chief Minister in setting up the scheme and then perhaps something he has declared an interest in benefit from it directly? Thank you, sir.
So I think the crucial thing, sir, I think the Deputy would need to, given the comments or the effectively what's being asserted, sir, by the deputies, one would need to demonstrate a clear, direct and pecuniary interest, and for that conflict of interest to exist in the way that the deputy is declaring. What I've been attempting to illustrate, sir, is that firstly, where there have been any direct perceived direct interests, sir, the Centre has not participated in the approval of the scheme, but where those interests have been shared by a much wider audience, sir, then there has been participation, but it's been declared, sir, and that's been accepted by all ministers present. But in general, and I use the payroll scheme for example, sir, it has not been the minister that has been approving the scheme, sir, and it's been considered by all of the competent authorities. What I would say, sir, sorry, is that in many of these things we've had to move swiftly. As I said, using the payroll scheme as an example, I think at one point we were about 1 in 4 employees on the island, and therefore, sir, there will have been many businesses that will have enjoyed support, sir, but that was actually a need, and that's directly compatible with the role of the Ministry of Economic Development.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward?
Yes, thank you. I thank the Chief Minister for his answer. Can I ask, given the wide-ranging coverage of the scheme, was one might call a risk assessment produced of possible direct conflicts of interest of those in both government and perhaps officers even and wider audiences who may have benefited from the scheme? Was that undertaken? Because it strikes me as that is a very sensible thing to do for transparency in the long term. Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Sir, I'm certainly not aware of any direct pecuniary or personal conflicts of interest or benefits that have arisen from the scheme, sir. What I will say, sir, the by far greater risk was in terms of speed of getting the support out to support significant numbers of employees and businesses in the time of crisis, sir.
So with respect, I did ask about the risk assessment that was undertaken. I wonder if the Minister could just confirm whether...
Are you able to indicate whether there was a risk assessment, Chief Minister?
Sir, I don't know if there was a direct risk assessment, sir. There were declarations of interest if they were appropriate, sir.
Very well. Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister will be aware that it is often the case that various debates in the Assembly are preceded by questions about conflicts of interest. This happens on a fairly regular matter, but given there are only 49 members of the Assembly, and we have all worked, or some people continue to work in different areas, does the Chief Minister agree that there will always be situations where there are people with various interests and yet they are still developing policy? And so the most important thing is to ensure that the declarations are there. And does he agree that perhaps the Assembly needs to come to a better understanding of what conflict of interest actually means?
So I think that's a reasonable comment, sir, that it does actually, it is helpful for, for members to understand what that conflict is. I was on reflection, sir, thinking through the answer I gave to previous questioners as well, sir, and on reflection, particularly in the interest of transparency, perhaps it might be something I discuss with PPC. I would have thought it would be a matter that would be FOIable anyway, sir, that perhaps it might be appropriate to ensure there is a declaration of all payments that are made to all states members and related parties, sir, perhaps in this Assembly and the previous one, but for comparison. And that would be full transparency and would be full accountability to the public, sir. Obviously, that would be excluding what I'll call, I assume, normal salaries, sir, which are already in the public domain.
I beg your pardon, supplementary question, Deputy Morel?
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister believe that the State Assembly would become unworkable if every time there was any any matter of the slightest conflict of interest being raised, such as we are often the debate about housing is often dominated by issues around conflicts of landlords, and for instance, pay debates could be affected by issues around funding from unions. So does he believe that the states would become unworkable if every time there was the slightest conflict, we all had to stand down and not take part in those debates?
So I think if you stand at the very high end of that argument, if that makes sense, I think the Deputy has quite an important point there, sir, because conflicts of interest can be very, very wide-ranging. The fundamental principle is that one's got to make sure that that if there is an interest, that it is properly declared, and it is for the individual member to assess whether they think that impinges upon their judgment in terms of how they arrive at decisions. I think that's what the public would expect. But in a small community, sir, as the Deputy rightly alludes to, sir, relationships with unions, with trade bodies, with businesses, with whatever, are all and other organisations and charities, sir, will at different times potentially give rise to a perceived conflict. It then comes down to, sir, is it a pecuniary conflict or is it a wider conflict, sir, shared by a wide range of people?
Well, Senator Mezek, then final supplementary, Deputy Southern.
Thank you. So it's a very specific question here. Could he just confirm what role, if any, the Deputy Chief Minister had in setting the criteria for the scheme?
To be frank, sir, I don't have those full details to hand. When I say that, sir, all the schemes that we have obviously approved have been put together by officers. They will then liaise with relevant ministers before they come up formally through that process, and it will depend on the circumstances. I do know, sir, that in particular, for example, the visitor accommodation support scheme, certainly from recollection, sir, the Minister obviously did declare a perceived conflict, and from memory withdrew from the decision-making process on that, sir. I would have to go back and just confirm on that basis, but that is my recollection.
Supplementary, Senator Mesnick?
Yes, quickly. Will the Chief Minister undertake to confirm what he has just said and inform members as soon as possible?
Sir, I will certainly go in and check that my recollection is correct, and obviously if there's any variation on that, I will obviously email members accordingly, sir.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. And would the Chief Minister inform members of whether he's aware of any action as a consultant to this company taken by the Assistant Minister, which resulted in something like £1.6 million of support being available to this company, and at the same time it was making £2 million profit. Surely that's a pecuniary interest if you're a consultant advising this particular board or this particular management.
So we're getting into the realms of what I would say very personal data, and so I'm unclear as to the accuracy or not of the data that's been provided by the Deputy, and I've not looked into that side of things. What I've said, sir, I don't think I can add any more, sir, is that appropriate declarations of interest have been made, and particularly with Senator Farnham, he has been absolutely clear on many times, including in the Assembly, sir, about declaring his interests. The fact that he acts in a limit, he's always, I believe he's used the expression, that he acts as a consultant, sir. I think my understanding it tends to be in a fairly limited capacity, and that has always been very open, sir. And I think from his perspective, sir, that is it is from his perspective, sir. It's regarded as very much a matter of transparency and possibly going further than he normally would need to do. But in terms of the decision-making process, sir, where there have been decisions that have been across the board, and that's why, for example, I've cited the payroll scheme, sir, which ultimately assisted 3,500 businesses and was primarily aimed at 17,000 employees and was approved by the Treasury Minister. So, sir, there's been significant amount of support put out for very many businesses and other organisations within Jersey during the pandemic, and I think we should be standing by that as a successful track record of the record support this government has given, sir, approved by this Assembly.
Well, we come now to question 5 that Senator Ferguson will ask of the Minister for Health and Social Services. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response to written question 172/2021, will the Minister advise whether at a Lakenave community meeting recently, attendees were informed by a healthcare professional that services currently at Overdale would not be relocated to Lakenave until late 2022? And if so, will he explain how such a statement tallies with other government communications regarding the relocation?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I can confirm that the timing of the relocation...
Minister, I'm afraid your sound is entirely muffled, and I'm not quite sure what might be done about that, but perhaps you could... we can hear you talking, but we can't hear what you're saying.
I'm hoping that's better, sir, now?
Yes, that is better. Thank you.
Thank you. I can confirm that the timing of the relocation of services to the former Lakenave School site has been discussed at local community meetings. There is currently no precise date for the decant of health services from Overdale to the former school, as this aspect of the project is still being planned. It is now looking likely that services will begin moving across in stages, commencing in spring 2022, with the facility being fully open by December 2022. So the healthcare professional quoted by the Senator was correct based on the information available to him at that time. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Senator Ferguson?
Yes, please, sir. The Minister felt he had to email me to ask about my source of information. Is he not concerned that his officers were well aware of the time delay to 2022 and the increase in cost to 15 million? And is he not concerned that they appear not to have briefed him on the changes?
Minister.
I emailed the Senator after receiving her question about her reference to the statement tallying or not tallying with other government communications regarding the relocation. And IO officers were not aware of any different government communications regarding the timing. So I wish to provide clarity in answering this question as to what the Senator may have heard in other government communications, simply because we were not aware of it. And the Senator talks about a time delay. This work is being planned, sir. It is a project that is in train. There's been no previous estimate of time earlier than 2022 that certainly IO officers are aware of. Thank you, sir.
Well, Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. About 3 weeks ago, I was contacted by a constituent who lives in the Clos de Sable area, asking me what the neighbourhood forum was and why she wasn't informed about it and how it was made known. And this is on the back of a media article which talked about that said community forum for residents in the area. Can the Minister explain exactly what this forum is, who was invited to it, and whether or not all of the residents of the area were informed and invited to be part of that forum?
Yes, I understand that all residents of the area received an invitation.
I'm sorry, Minister, your sound is fading in and out again. You become muffled. Whatever you did on the last occasion, perhaps you could do it again, because that seemed to work.
Shout.
I'll do my best. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry this is causing problems. Sir, my understanding is that all residents of the area were invited to the forum. If the deputy wishes to contact me outside of this assembly with the details of his constituent, I can investigate why he or she was not involved and ensure that that person is involved in all future communications from the forum. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Deputy?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'd like the Minister to provide the exact details of what was sent out to whom and when, because I certainly wasn't informed about it. And then to get emails or messages on social media saying from constituents who live within, a stone's throw of that site, to not know about it, I think is a jolly poor show. And so if he could provide that information that I've asked for and perhaps circulate it to all members, but certainly those of us who represent the area in St. Brelard.
Minister.
Well, sir, I very much regret that the deputy was not informed, because I had specifically asked that parish representatives be informed. Clearly, there were a number of attendees at the meeting, so communications had been made correctly and were responded to. But perhaps it's difficult if a house may contain, a building might contain 2 households, for example. All sorts of reasons why perhaps there may be individuals who have been missed. But as I've said to the deputy, we will try and make up any deficit. If he or others wish to let me know of people who have an interest and weren't contacted, we will certainly put them on the list for future contact. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Conatap St. Brelard.
Thank you, sir. It seems to me, sir, that the communications at parish level have dismally failed. Would the Minister agree that the consultants haven't been advised how the parishes work? They haven't been advised that the first port of call in the parish is the Roads Committee, and the Roads Committee will in turn disseminate to residents the findings or any proposed changes. So could I ask the Minister, in the light of our experience not only in St Helier with the Roads Committee there and also now in St Brelade's, that the consultants being used for this work should be revisited? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I will pass that message and the Conservative views through the our hospital team. I'm sorry the Constable feels that way. It certainly was the intention and wish to engage the parish and the parish representatives, and that direction was given. Sorry, it hasn't. If it hasn't worked out in practice, but I will speak again with members of the team to ensure that this is thoroughly done in the future.
Supplementary question, Conatap?
Yes, please, sir. I thank the Minister for his response and would let him know that I had a presentation yesterday from the Director General and others on the matter, and it seems to me that the traffic management plan is delayed. Would he be able to tell members, sir, when this traffic management plan will be presented so that residents can be given comfort? Thank you, sir.
Right now, sir, I'm not able to inform the Conatable of a precise date, but I will have that investigated and will let him and members know. Thank you, sir.
Very well. I have a question from Deputy Truscott, then final supplementary. Deputy Truscott.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to I let the Minister know, I did actually attend that meeting that's in question, and I think. Will the Minister agree that keeping communication going, particularly in the community, is essential to bring this project to fruition? I do live within stone distance of Le Kennevet School, so that's possibly why I was invited. But yeah, communication is paramount. Does the Minister agree? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I thank the Deputy for emphasising that. I acknowledge that the future use of the school is a matter of importance to the neighbourhood and the parish. So health is planning to be there for a limited time, but you know, it's a huge facility within the parish that has served public need for a long time, and whatever its future might be, whether temporary by health or longer term, parishioners always need to be engaged. I hope they always will be. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Deputy?
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. The original explanation of the services to be transferred to Kennevet was that we would not pay for the services, but the explanations being made now is that it will be user pays. Is the Minister not concerned that this is yet another development about which he has not been briefed?
Sir, I really am puzzled at the occasional comments I receive that suddenly we're going to have to start paying for services that were previously free. It is the case that all health and care services currently provided by HCS, that is by the public sector, will continue to be provided free of charge. There is no plan to start charging for services that are currently taxpayer funded. Thank you, sir.
Well, we come now to question 6 that Senator Pallop will ask the same Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether the current staffing levels within the radiography department at the General Hospital are sufficient to maintain all required radiography services to the public at present? And will he also provide the number of vacant posts within this department, together with an explanation for any such vacancies, especially where any have arisen as a result of disciplinary issues?
Sir, there has been a long-standing recruitment challenge within this area due to the scarcity of specialist skills. Currently, there are 10 vacancies from a budgeted workforce of 51 full-time employees. These vacancies are currently covered by locum staff to ensure the safe delivery of the service. Health and Community Services has recently started a recruitment campaign to all those 10 vacancies in an effort to secure candidates for all the posts. And this campaign will be supported by specialist recruitment consultants employed by the government as part of the government contract on resourcing. We're also in the process of conducting a review, sir, into the best means of retaining this staff group, acknowledging that there is not just in Jersey but elsewhere recruitment challenges to it. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Senator Parrott?
Yes, so just a couple of issues around the actual question itself. I did ask whether there an explanation for the vacancies, and to some extent the minister's given that, but he hasn't really given a full explanation, and also whether any have arisen out of recent disciplinary issues.
Well, so as Minister, it's not appropriate for me to comment on disciplinary matters within the department, which indeed are dealt with by professionals under the supervision of the State's Employment Board. I think that is the most I can say on disciplinary issues, sir, and on the remainder, there is always a throughput of staff in any organisation. It is dependent on the availability of skills. As I've said, sir, approximately 1/10 or 1/5 of the posts here are currently covered by locum staff, so the service is continuing. Thank you, sir.
Well, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister inform members how many of these radiographers posts are filled by agency radiographers, and how this compares with the current use of agency workers in the nursing?
So as I advised in my answer to Senator Pallett, the 10 vacancies are currently covered by locum staff. I understand from that the remaining 41 positions are filled by staff employed on a substantive basis by the department. And as to the wider comparisons, we are reducing the number of agency staff within the department, but I can't give the deputy a department-wide picture at the moment, but work is continually ongoing in ensuring that staff are employed substantively. Thank you.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes, Deputy.
Most unsatisfactory answer. Will the Minister return? Oh dear. What's happening there?
There seems to be some sort of echo. Does anyone have within the Assembly have their microphone switched on? Well, perhaps you could try that one. Yes, please.
Supplementary. Yeah, my word is agency workers. Can he produce those figures, and particularly how this department's figures for agency workers, use of agency workers across the 50 places compares to current nursing practice? Can he give those figures to me as soon as he wishes?
Yes. I will do. It is rather expanding on the question, which was limited to the radiography department, but the deputy wishes to know the use of agency staff. Perhaps he would tell me, because he's mentioned nursing services, does he just wish to know about nursing, or does he wish to know about medical staff, or does he wish to know about across the whole HCS department?
Well, so
Let me know, sir.
there isn't I'm afraid there isn't a facility to ask a question back, and that was the deputy's second or supplementary question. So perhaps that could be taken into the margins of the assembly, and the deputy could clarify his question, which is to be answered on a later date in any event offline. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. The Minister doesn't want to talk about disciplinary matters, and I can understand that, but will the Minister acknowledge that there has been discontent within the department and that personality conflicts have been part of the problem, and there needs to be a look at the management of the department?
Minister.
So in a huge department such as HCS and in any huge organisation, there will always be those sort of tensions, and we look to proper management and procedures to deal with those and help people resolve those sorts of questions. And that is the role of the State's Employment Board and its officers. And I am confident, sir, that there are measures in place to help staff navigate those difficulties and to minimise the effect of them. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Deputy Higgins.
Yes, sir. I would ask the Minister to actually speak with the State's Employment Board and look at how effective those mechanisms are to make sure that these sort of the discontent and the problems in a department such as this are properly addressed with. So will the Minister consult with the Chairman of the SEB and look at it in much more depth before coming to an answer in future?
Well, I will do that. The Deputy feels he has some specific information which he is not satisfied has been handled correctly. So if he wished to let me have what he knows, I can then consult on a much more informed basis. Thank you, sir.
Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. This appears to be the discontent appears to be a failure of management, and given the reputation for dealing with complaints and so on in health over the 20 years I've been in the States, does the Minister not think that it's a matter of urgency to investigate this thoroughly?
Well, I'd begin by saying that we have an excellent workforce in HCS who are dedicated to their roles and work well together and with management. And I'm proud of our workforce and the service it gives. Now, of course, sir, there will be relationship difficulties within any large workforce. These things must be addressed, and they are addressed within the procedures that I outlined. There is access to anyone who has a grievance can take that up, and it can be followed through and the matter resolved. Those systems are in place, sir, and are regularly used. And because they are used, because they are in place, it should not be thought that a particular department or organisation is riddled with dissatisfaction. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Mr. Supplementary question, Senator.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Given the fact that the Auditor General felt it essential to have a new complaints procedure, and given the fact that I think probably the Al Witry case is just now coming to an end, something like 10 years since it started, doesn't the Minister realise that it's absolutely essential to improve the management so that these difficulties do not arise?
What I will say is that I acknowledge that in the past, the complaint service within HCS and probably within other state departments left something to be desired, but there's been a tremendous amount of work that has gone in over recent years since the reports the Senator refers to, which has improved the complaint services and means that we are now in HCS, we're patient-centered. We seek to resolve the issues and learn from any complaints that are made. So there's always room for improvement, always room to do better, but I've seen the progress that has been made in dealing with complaints. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Final supplementary, Senator Paladin.
Thank you, sir. Whether the Minister wants to accept it or not, there have been issues with the radiography department, and I would ask the Minister to have a closer look just to ensure that everything's being done to ensure that the department can run as smoothly as possible. But in terms of the numbers of vacancies, 20% seems to be very high. Locums and support staff are very expensive. Could you just say what he's specifically doing to attract staff to specialist posts in areas such as radiography and more generally within CHS so that we can reduce some of these high vacancy rates?
So we a stance that is what is called always on. So we don't run a campaign which opens on one day and might close some weeks later to recruit staff. We're always on. Those adverts and that publicity is always there. It's a continual recruitment process. And in addition, rather than just relying on our own skills within the department around recruitment, we are supported by specialist recruitment consultants. The name is PENA, who are contracted by government, and they have availability of particular expertise or reach into those radiography and other professionals in order to attract them to our posts. And that is working, and I expect it will be working as we recruit to these radiography positions. Thank you, sir.
Very much. We come now to question 7. The Deputy Pamplin will ask of the same Minister. Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what action the government is currently taking to ensure that the recruitment of healthcare professionals such as nurses, GPs and carers is maintained and supported, especially for the workforce needs arising out of the Jersey Care Model? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The workforce strategy and associated resourcing plan for the Jersey Care Model is scheduled to be delivered by the end of this year as part of the first tranche of activity within the Jersey Care Model. And at that point, we will know the requirements for all healthcare professionals to support the model. In the meantime, sir, the department continues to recruit to its existing vacancies with 107 jobs actively out for recruitment at this moment. And this includes 21 adverts for medical staff, for the 21 vacancies currently available in medical staff, 37 specific nursing adverts. There's a cable on the floor down there. I need to find it. And I referred in the previous question to the always on recruitment portal for nurses, of which there are 60 vacancies for nurses at the present time. As I've said in the previous question, so many of those vacancies are not just left empty, they are fulfilled by locums at the present time. The question, sir, refers to GPs and carers. Government does not have responsibility for the recruitment of GPs or carers, but as the workforce strategy develops, any changes in the workforce to support the Jersey Care Model will be identified and shared with the relevant recruitment leads in those areas to ensure correct recruitment activity is taking place. Thank you.
Supplementary, Deputy Pamplin?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm glad the Minister touched there, sir, on the last part of my question about GPs, because a recent study by the King's Fund, Nutfield Trust and Health Foundation predicted in 2019 that the NHS shortfall in GPs would triple to 2,500 to 7,000 by 2023-24. And as the Minister rightly said, they don't get directly involved with the recruitment of GPs. Will ensure that part of the work going forward would to help the GPs in recruiting when there is similar issues across not just the United Kingdom but Europe in recruiting and training new GPs? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We want to work in partnership with GPs and all involved in providing health and care in the island to ensure that all islanders' needs are met, and that is a very definite impetus in the Jersey Care model. We are working and collaborating well with other professionals, including the GPs, and I'm pleased to see that moving forward. Thank you, sir.
All right, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, has looking at future needs in terms of the workforce, has he taken into account any effect of a migration policy that could have particular barriers for professionals and for numbers coming to the island? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, that was taken into account when the Migration Policy Development Board was formulating its report. HCS made a submission in respect of staff it needed, and I'm pleased to see that the final report, and indeed this was shown in our debate on the issue, recognised that we still need to bring people to the island based not just on their economic value to the island, but on their social value, which might include, the need for carers, the need for nursing staff, the sort of sectors where traditionally they've not been seen as high earners, but they have a real social and healthcare value. Thank you, sir.
A supplementary, sir?
Yes, indeed.
So may I ask the Minister, and extending that to the on-island training and the need to train skilled workforce, will the Minister be looking at support for those, for example, nurses who want to extend their training by going off-island and gaining that experience, and therefore giving more financial support to those people who make that commitment? Because at times it is very difficult for people to go off-island and survive in order to gain the sort of experience we desperately need on island. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Minister.
Yes, sir. I acknowledge the difficulties the Deputy has outlined. It has been an issue in the past, and we are aware and do look at those issues. But there have been steps taken to improve what is available for island trainees. So, for example, it is now possible for nurses to be supported as mental health nurses and develop that specialism, and also as community nurses. So that's help in those two streams that's come along in recent times. So we will always be trying to improve that position, sir. Thank you.
Very well. Supplementary, Deputy? Or was that your supplementary, I think?
Honesty means that I must say it was my supplementary.
Yes, sorry about that. Deputy Sutherland, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to 5 supplementaries. Where was I? Right. As part of his action today, will the Minister commit himself to adopting the ethical charter passed by this House almost 2 years ago now, and put in place so that we can get the best terms and conditions for our carers and get carers in homes in order to recruit and retain correct staff?
So for my part, I wholeheartedly support the Ethical Care Charter, and I remember those debates and discussions with the Deputy. But of course, government does not employ domiciliary care workers. It is a private sector employment, and the regulation of them is with the Jersey Care Commission, who I understand are very much aware of the Ethical Care Charter, and indeed the whole ethos of the Care Commission is to ensure that those industries that it regulates treat its employees in the best possible way, fairly, and ensure that their professional training and standards are upheld. Thank you.
Well, supplementary question. Yes.
Could the Minister commit himself then to talking to the Care Commission in order to work out what aspects of the ethical charter, which is, as he keeps saying, has been passed by this House, can be adopted now or in the near future?
Yes, sir. I will again talk to the Care Commission about that. There is one limitation the Care Commission has in that it cannot set employment law. So, of course, there must be a parallel discussion with the Social Security Minister with regard to any employment issues or terms of employment relating to carers. So the Care Commission will do all it can within its remit, and then I think it is for us as states members and ministers to ensure that employment law practices are followed. Thank you, sir.
Well, Senator Ferguson. Senator Ferguson?
Yes, I'm sorry, sir. Chasing my microphone around the screen. I assume the Minister is aware that we are advertising for 17 new civil servants, costing 900,000 a year or thereabouts, to plan the commencement of the Jersey Care model, which means we have more civil servants in the health department than we have GPs in the island. Does he think that this is a constructive recruitment policy? And does he perhaps need to take a step back and look at the proper organisation of his department?
So this was the Senator's identical question that she asked last week, but I'm happy to address it once again. So of course the department with approaching 3,000 staff may well have more administrative help than the 100 or so GPs that are in the island. So that certainly doesn't surprise me. And with the remit of HCS, I would hope that it is fully managed and resourced correctly. But we must bear in mind that the term civil servants also includes our allied health professionals, such as physiotherapists, occupational therapists.
No.
Well, the Senator may interject, but they are classified as civil servants. So if the Senator is concerned about numbers, she should know that our pharmacy staff, our lab staff, and many therapists are presently classed under our system as civil servants, paid under civil service pay grade. And sir, just finally, it was criticised, I received criticism that the previous iterations to try and change the way we care for people in the island had just not been progressed under the previous management and administration. So this, the present recruitment is to ensure that we have a system in place that will work for islanders, that will ensure we deliver the change that is necessary to embed the best modern...
I'm afraid I do have to draw your answer to a close. It's well over the 1 minute 30 seconds that's normal.
Thank you, sir. I've finished.
Thank you very much. Supplemental, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. No, because the productivity of the Jersey Care model compared to the current productivity in the hospital will actually go down. And really, this is something that should be looked at properly. We do not want a Jersey National Health Service, which is an utter disaster.
Is there a question,
please, will the Minister look at the productivity of the sector and of the aftercare services that are going to be provided in the Jersey Care model and just apply a bit of common sense? Thank you.
Did you wish to respond, Minister?
Well, sir, I would be interested to know where the Senator gets her data around the reduction in productivity, because I've seen no such data. Sir, the work surrounding the Jersey Care model is being thoroughly planned, and it's for that reason, sir, we can expect that the care of islanders will improve and will be modernised and come up to the very best healthcare standards because of the recruitment of the particular posts that the Senator is concerned about. We are embedding this work so that there will be no split, that this work, the best healthcare will be delivered, and I'm confident that that work is being done, sir. Thank you.
Much. I have Senator Mezek, then Deputy Morels, Senator Pallett, Deputy Higgins, Deputy Hegarah, then the final supplementary. I won't take any more questions on this one. We are running, surprisingly, even with the allowances, relatively tight in time. There have been some extremely long questions and some equally long answers, and one or two of the questions have begun to stray outside the parameters, even broadly interpreted, of the question. And therefore, I'd be grateful if members could bear those factors in mind when they come to ask their questions, and ministers and others answering questions bear those in mind when they answer them. Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. In answer to a previous question, the Minister pointed out government not recruiting GPs and carers, that not falling within its responsibilities. So my question is, why not? And if there are shortfalls occurring for GPs and carers, will there be scope in the Jersey Care model for the public sector to step in to directly fill the gap?
Minister.
So the reason why not is because simply government does not fund primary care to the extent that it would run GP surgeries. And that has not been the position in the island, as the Senator will know. And similarly, sir, with domiciliary care workers, government has not operated in that sector, and that remains the case.
Used to. Senator, supplementary.
Well, sir, I guess I reiterate the question, why not? And just because that's the way it's been in the past doesn't mean that needs to be the way it is in the future. And if it became clear that it's in Jersey's interests to have publicly employed GPs and carers to meet the health needs of the population who we represent, why would he not do that? Is he being advised that it would be a bad thing to have publicly employed GPs and carers to fill that need? Or is he being advised that actually it could be a useful way of filling a gap when the private sector isn't capable of doing so?
Yes.
Sir, I don't believe there is any gap. I believe that primary care and other services outside of the public sector are being delivered, and islanders' healthcare needs are being met to the best extent that we can. But these things are continually under review, and if there was seen to be any failing, any inability to provide a primary care service, then I am sure that government would need to step in. But so we have excellent providers in those services, and at the moment there are no plans for government to step in and take over all these services. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Senator Mezek? Or have I already given you one?
I think he's had his supplement.
I'd love a third, sir, but I probably won't.
No, well, sorry about that. I'll try and keep better track. Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. Workforce planning is one element of Tranche 1 of Jersey Care Model. Other elements include detailed planning, foundations, acute, community and intermediate care, and communications. These are all aspects of Tranche 1 to be delivered in 2021. Would the Health Minister advise the Assembly whether he believes that all aspects of Tranche 1 are currently on course to be delivered this year?
Yes, sir. The information I have at the moment is that that is the case.
So could he repeat that, because I could not hear the answer?
Yes, if you could repeat that. You were rather muffled there, so if you could say that again.
I apologise, sir. Yes, sir. To the best of my knowledge, the information I have is that all those work streams will be delivered within 2021.
Well, supplementary, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And as part of the debate on the Jersey Care Model that took place last year, close liaison with scrutiny was required through an amendment. Could the Minister confirm that such liaison is taking place?
It is, sir, and the scrutiny panel is aware of the steps that have been taken to establish the overarching board, which was agreed as an amendment put forward by scrutiny and accepted by me, and recruitment to those posts and the chair of those posts is taking place imminently. Thank you, sir.
Well, Senator Barrett.
There's been a difficulty in attracting and indeed retaining staff. I mean, some of that I think has been down to housing costs to some degree, and I've seen that within the mental health service personally. What will the Minister be doing in regards to providing support packages to attract staff to the island, and will he be looking to improve on those packages if recruitment becomes more difficult?
Yes, sir, we will seek to improve on any packages should recruitment become more difficult. We are in a better position now to offer housing as one example, with a better accommodation, better quality and a better range of accommodation, with the new facilities opened at Hugh Court and Pleasant Court for doctors and other staff. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, Senator?
No, sir, I'll pass on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Higgins. Deputy Higgins.
Sorry, sir. I wasn't aware that I'd asked a question or was asking for a question. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much. Deputy Hegarah.
Thank you, sir. What risk assessment has been completed in relation to the Jersey Care Model should Jersey be unable to recruit sufficient GPs in order to deliver those services?
Minister.
So that's a risk assessment that would need to be undertaken with the primary care body. So I think that is something that will be developed in time, sir. I can't say that it is totally completed at the present time, though the risks are, we are aware of them. In the past, though, there has been good recruitment to GP positions in Jersey, and I hope that will continue.
Very much. Supplemental, Deputy Hegarah?
No, thank you, sir.
Very well. Deputy Pampton has indicated he doesn't wish a final supplementary question, so we come to question 8. The Deputy of St Mary will ask the same Minister. Deputy of St Mary.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether, having regard to the number of COVID-19 cases in the island, there are any immediate plans to allow dental practices to return to their pre-pandemic procedures in terms of the number of patients in waiting rooms, standards of PPE required, and the period of fallow time between patients? And if not, why not?
Minister.
At this stage, a return to pre-pandemic levels of activity in dental surgeries is not recommended. The government continues to follow a cautious approach with a mix of mitigations to minimise risk of COVID transmission, and this includes physical distancing of 2 meters where possible, or at least 1 meter, use of masks, optimum ventilation requirements, and standardized PPE requirements for the protection of staff and patients. And the guidance for these mitigations are based on known risks from new variants of COVID and emerging evidence of COVID being spread through airborne transmission. So specifically, the standards for PPE are set in accordance with Public Health England and are approved by dental professionals based at the General Hospital. The guidance on fallow periods between patients is also in line with Public Health England. It's a risk-based approach requiring an assessment of ventilation arrangements in the dental surgery, a patient's COVID status, and the procedures required, including high-risk aerosol generating procedures. As with all public health guidance, dental guidance is kept under ongoing review to ensure that approaches are proportionate to risk. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Sutton.
Can I have a supplementary, please, sir?
Oh, I beg your pardon, Deputy. I'm not doing extremely well on supplementary questions at the moment. Deputy St Mary, supplementary question, of course.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Minister for his answer, but does he not accept that dental practitioners are, by virtue of their own professional expertise and qualification, acutely aware of the potential dangers caused by the pandemic and by aerosols in particular? And will he advise to what extent have STAC or those responsible for monitoring the situation have sought to consult the Jersey Dental Association on the issue?
Sir, I accept, as the Deputy states, the competence and professionalism of dentists. And Public Health have consulted not just with the Jersey Dental Association, but with all dentists, because not all dentists are represented by the association. Thank you, sir.
Much. Deputy Sutton.
What is the Minister's best estimate of when we might see dental services return to normal? And is it his intention to build back better on the core services that we have, especially for young people?
Sir, I don't have a precise date, and this will depend on advice coming through from looking first, perhaps at Public Health England guidance, and then looking locally to medical and dental professionals. And the Deputy rather enlarges the question, sir, but yes, of course, we do seek to improve on dental services, and particularly for children, wherever possible. Thank you, sir.
Bingo.
Well, supplementary, Deputy?
No, thanks, sir. I've heard what I need. Thank you.
Thank you. In which case, final supplementary, Deputy St Mary.
Thank you, sir. And if I could just respond on the comment made by membership of the Jersey Dental Association, which has been raised numerous times before. It is accepted that maybe not 100% of the dentists are members, but it is the case that all dental
this does have to be a question. It has to be
okay,
supplementary.
Thanks, sir. I therefore, my question therefore is: does the Minister accept that continuation of the present measures in the improved situation we are now in are adversely impacting on the operation of dental practices in terms of both the number of patients they're able to see and costs, which will in turn be passed on to the patients? And will you therefore please undertake to arrange for STAC or any other body responsible for liaison to contact the JDA as a matter of priority with a view to discussing with them what measures might now be relaxed? Thank you, sir.
Much. Minister.
So I know the Deputy refers to this as adverse impacts. Of course, there will be adverse financial impacts on the dentist, that I must accept. But of course, they are mitigations for the sake of safety of both dentists and their staff and patients. And until professionals feel it is safe to do so, I can't say that those mitigations will be removed. But so as I've said, guidance is kept under ongoing review, and I will ask the public health team to maintain their contacts with dentists, including the Dental Association. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister. We come now to question 9. The Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state the tenancy terms and conditions that apply to approximately 400 Andium Homes residents of Lamarre during and following the refurbishment of their properties? Will he advise whether it is expected that the tenants will return to their properties or move from the area? And in any case, if they will be treated as new tenants and subject to rent rises as a result?
Minister.
Sir, yes, the 4 towers of Lamarre are being refurbished at a cost of £22 million. Work has already begun and started on Block H and will continue to G, E and F and be completed in 2023. Here's how it worked with Block H. Before the work started, the block was completely vacated. Each tenant is given an individual consultation and 2 choices, whether to move to new accommodation and say goodbye to Lamarre, or whether to move to temporary accommodation and then return when it's completed. The tenancy agreements that exist with their tenancy in Lamarre cease when they vacate, and new tenancy agreements are drawn up for either the new accommodation or the temporary accommodation, and there will be another new tenancy agreement when they move back to Lamarre. All tenants moved to new tenancies, as I've said. The rents are set in line with the current state social housing rent policy. Those on income support were, of course, fully protected. Andium provides carpets in the new homes, and tenants are also entitled to a financial removals allowance.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Supplementary, if I may, sir. Yes.
Yes.
The net effect of being made to sign a new contract is that their rents will rise to 90% from whatever it was previously. Is that not the case? And is this not effectively the tenants paying for the refurbishment via an hike in their rental charges?
Well, I'm not sure how great the hike is because the new rents for Lamarre have not as yet been set. But in essence, that is the policy. That's the policy as far as I can remember when I joined in 2014, and I remember it from the La Collette low-rise. But essentially, that's what happens.
Senator Mezek.
Thanks, sir. Is the Minister aware of how the housing trusts, such as Laveau Housing Trust, have handled similar situations when moving tenants to an equivalent flat during a phased refurbishment or redevelopment project, and how they have handled the issue of whether rent goes up or not? If he is aware of how they do it, could he tell us, and could he outline whether he thinks the state-owned housing provider ought to adopt a similar approach?
Well, I've been to visit Laveau and had a tour of it, the new development, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I commend that trust for that complete redesign and refurbishment. But as to the details of how they've decanted their tenants and then reissued tenancies, I don't have that information in my head. I'll certainly have a look at it.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Supplementary, yes, Senator.
Thank you, sir. I mean, my understanding of that project is that they were able to transfer their tenants without imposing a very significant rent increase on them, despite the fact the redevelopment is very significant. And I agree with the Minister, it's a fantastic development and an example to all. Now that he knows this, would the Minister agree that it is a demonstration that the social housing rents policy is broken and that there is an injustice in moving tenants against their initial desire? It's not their choice to be subjected to these redevelopment programs, even if they are the right thing to do, and get a massive rent increase as a result of it. And would the Minister commit to supporting an alternative rents policy that doesn't see this arise as an issue?
Well, yes, I'm not aware of any tenants myself who had no desire to move out and then move back into a refurbished Le Marais. It's a massive refurbishment with new heating, new wiring, new bathrooms, new kitchens. It's going to have a new Wi-Fi throughout the block. I'm sorry, I keep getting a hearing interruption.
I know somebody interrupted. Was speaking clearly with him. Please do carry on, though, Minister. I don't think it was an intention.
The lifts have been refurbed, so they stop at every floor. They used to stop every other one. Now, as to the 90% of market rates, social model that we have had since Andium was created, the Housing Policy Development Board asks us, the states, the government, to review that. I'm conducting my own review. I have been doing since I became Housing Minister 100 days ago, and so that I can take an informed position on that. Of course, it's not in my gift to change it. It is the shareholder representative at Treasury, but I want to get all the information I can about that as asked to do so, and consult with colleagues, and that is happening at the moment.
Well, Deputy Tadeo.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister agree with me that it doesn't feel right to ask residents to move out through no choice of their own in order for no doubt much needed refurbishment works to go on, only to find that their rents will go up to 90% of market rate when they've been enjoying a different, more beneficial agreement up until this point?
Well, of course, I expect there are instances where people can use that opportunity, tenants can use that opportunity to perhaps, if their needs have changed, to move to a smaller accommodation if they're no longer got their children with them, for example. So that can happen. I'm not aware of any kind of disquiet. I get a big mailbag, obviously, on housing issues, and I'm not aware of people upset by this.
Supplementary. Yes.
Maybe that's a job for the constituency members of Le Marais to engage then with those residents of Le Marais. But the supplementary is: is the minister aware that the Article 16 of the Residential Tenancy Law gives the court wide jurisdiction to resolve any contested matters of dispute and vary contracts in all ways that might be considered just and reasonable, and so it is open for all of those tenants to take a collective suit against Andium, saying that they don't wish for the rents to be increased when they move into their new premises, and that if they could secure legal representation, or even if they couldn't, the court could rule that Andium shouldn't charge them any extra rents or vary their contracts when they're in the new premises.
That's noted.
Very well. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, is there a point where the Minister will step in to stop rises in rents? And if so, when is that? And if not, why not?
As to rises in rents, well, as I've said, I've been asked to look at the policy, the 90% policy, and I'm doing that, and I've had a lot of meetings on it, and I'm trying to gain a proper understanding of it and the implications for changing it, and that's happening at the moment. We are looking, thanks to the Housing Policy Development Board, at making being a tenant in Jersey as secure and safe as possible, and a lot of work is going into that at the moment.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, indeed.
So may I ask the Minister, does the Minister believe that as Housing Minister he has enough say, has enough influence over rental levels, particularly in Andium homes? Or has that arm's length organisation become so arm's length that our ministerial role of housing really has no influence over it whatsoever?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, and one I spoke to the Andium management about very recently, because it struck me that the prevailing attitude seemed to be, when Andium was created, that that was fine for housing, social housing now in Jersey, and they could go off and get on with it, arm's length, and occasionally we'd meet up with them or see the results or consult or what have you. I think that's going to change. I think it needs to change. I think the housing, it's not a department anymore, but the housing unit that I head up is needs to be beefed up. To that extent, I'm accelerating the recommendation to have a strategic alignment unit, so that we're looking at all properties that are being built in terms of by government or their agencies or trusts across the board, to make sure that we're providing the right properties. And I've asked to go on to the regeneration steering group, which I have sat on my first meeting last week on that, and I think that's important. I think we need what is really, really important, and the Andium management team said, yes, we're absolutely up for that. We would like direction, and we'd like to work together with government and all the agencies to make sure that we're providing exactly what's needed. So I think they would welcome that.
Oops, Deputy Tuddy, I'm afraid there's no time for a second question, but it would not be normal for a member to have the opportunity to ask a second question within questions with notice, although obviously second questions are often asked in questions without notice. Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister undertake to return to the House with the actual price changes in terms of rental between the 80% or previous rent and the 90% rent for bedsits, 1-beds and 2-bed flats, particularly about Les Vaux, Andium homes at Lamarre?
Yes is the short answer. If as soon as the rents have been set, I'm happy to distribute that, if that's what I was being asked of for.
No, I think Senator Mezek's made an observation within the chat in which he thinks what I've said was wrong, but please do continue with your answer, Mr.
I'm done, sir.
You're done. Very well.
It was a yes.
Indeed. Very well. We come now to question 10. That Senator Pallett will ask the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Further to written question 150/2021, which I thank the Minister for responding to previously. Will the Minister explain why, given the need for young children to resume swimming tuition after the pandemic, the teaching swimming pool at Lekenove Sports Centre still remains closed after 10 months? And will he provide members with a definitive date for its reopening to the public?
Thank you, sir. Deputy Raymond will take this question, if you may, sir. Thank you.
Yes, very well.
Thank you, sir. You will have all, as Senator Pallett has just said, the recent responses given to the written question in 150/2021 regarding to the Kenove Sports Centre and issues we were having with regards to the swimming pool. So I'm very pleased to be able to give you an update today about the opening of the pool in response to the questions now asked. We're working towards restarting children's swimming lessons at Lekenove as soon as possible, and I'd have to use the word imminent. We were hoping to start tomorrow, but it'll probably be on Thursday we shall be opening. The learner pool is now full of water, the new circulation pumps are in operation, the heating is on and the temperature is coming up to the usual 29 degrees. And at the present, as I say this morning, having just been told, is at 25 degrees this morning. We've been chlorinating as required. Children's swimming lessons have been taking place in the main pool, and these could move into the smaller pool as soon as it's ready. Family swimming in the small pool will also be able to resume. It will also be my intention to use the media to make sure that everybody is fully aware of what's happening at the pool so that we can get it out to everybody and the general public. Thank you, sir.
very much. Supplementary, Senator?
Yes, please, sir. So I thank the Assistant Minister for his answer, and I think the public will be pleased that we're finally getting to a point when it's going to reopen, although imminent was used. Building and maintenance is all about planning. Knowing the importance of swimming in an island context where children have access to the beaches and all the risks involved with open water, does the Minister really think it acceptable that our main teaching pool has been unavailable for such a long period? And why wasn't a more focused and more planning involved with his department in ensuring this facility reopened in the shortest possible time?
Thank you. Following on from that statement, we did have problems with regards to the Grundfos pumps, as you probably know, as stated in the previous written questions. We had difficulty in getting them over. That is now all done. The reason I use the word imminent, and I think the Senator will understand this, is that one little problem that we have is that we still have to make sure that the state's analyst gets the right satisfactory bacteriological results from the pool. But in hindsight, I do agree with you, there could have been a little bit more pushing on this and to get the pool open, because it has been sorely missed in the area of Kennebeya and around. Thank you, sir.
Very well. We come to the final question that Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. So I'd like to ask the Minister what consultation, and so I emphasise the word consultation because I recognise other questions around this area have been asked today. What consultation has been undertaken with the Department of Children, Young People, Education and Skills regarding the allocation of the former police headquarters site at Rouge-Bouillon? Has a decision been made that it would not be used for an extension to Rouge-Bouillon Primary School? And if so, who made that final decision regarding the allocation of the site? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. As the Deputy has stated, sir, most of this has been covered by the Chief Minister previously. And as I stated in my response to oral question 85, 2021 from Deputy Alves, the primary school estate review has commenced with SIPES. SIPES are fully engaged with the process and have been furnishing data and information about the current configuration of the school estate and the issues they are seeking to resolve. The outcome of this review will be considered alongside the review of sites for a combined fire and ambulance station completed by the Department of Justice and Home Affairs. No decision about the future use of the former police headquarters site has been made and will not be made until the primary school estate review has concluded. Thanks, sir.
So may I just confirm from the Minister who makes that final decision?
That will matter for after review from the Council of Ministers and the State's Assembly, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, I think that dealt with the original question, so a supplementary is acceptable at this stage.
Does the Minister have a timescale for the final decision? And within that timescale, will that decision, as you just inferred, come back to the Assembly, given that the final responsibility seems to be for the Minister and the Assembly from your answer just now? Thank you, sir.
As the Chief Minister stated previously, sir, it should be with the report should come back within between 4 and 6 weeks' time, and then it is a matter for the Council of Ministers and the Assembly, sir.
And the timescale, sir, for that decision?
I don't have a
very
timescale.
precise about the wording. Sorry, sir. Sorry, Minister.
Sorry, sir. I don't have a timescale, sir. I will endeavour to find out for the Deputy, sir.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Just for the avoidance of doubt, can the Minister confirm that there is every possibility that the old police station site could be used to extend Rouge-Bouillon School onto, and that remains something that is within the realms of possibility, and it is not simply a done deal with the Justice and Home Affairs Department for that site?
I can assure the Senator, sir, there is no done deal, and the decisions will be informed by the report.
Supplementary question, Senator?
Thank you, sir. No supplementary.
Thank you. Conor Tarbison, John.
Thank you, sir. Has the Minister visited the school, and is it his view that work needs to be done to improve it and additional space is required? I haven't revisited the school for many years, sir, but I know that Property Holdings are reviewing all of the schools as such, and any repairs that need to be made will be done, sir.
Supplementary question, Conor Tarbison-John?
Would the Minister visit the school in the near future? As I say, the team from Property Holdings are doing all the schools, sir. I don't have a problem visiting the school again, sir. More than happy to do that.
Well, Senator Valois.
Yes, thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister when the review started on this site and how long the expectation of this project or this review was meant to take?
I don't have the exact details of that, sir, so I wouldn't like to hazard a guess. But as I've just stated, it will be back with us between 4 and 6 weeks' time.
Supplementary question, Senator?
Yes, please, sir. Thank you. What reassurance can I have from the Minister that this will be the case when in 2019, in an answer to a written question, myself as Education Minister of the time requested a strategic review of the property portfolio held by schools, education and children's services, which was linked to the department's growth and long-term capital programme, and now we're only just going to see a product of the review in 4 to 6 weeks' time?
Well, it's obviously a cross-departmental report, and there have been considerable delays due to COVID. But everything takes time, and we're trying to encourage us to be delivered as soon as we can, sir.
Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I just want to go back to the original question regards to the final decision regarding the allocation of the site. And can I ask the Minister very clearly, what will your role be in making that final decision, your specific role in making the final decision over the allocation of that site?
My specific role is not that clear, sir. I am a member of the Regeneration Steering Group, as is the Constable of St Helier and others, sir. That will be a primary focus. Also, I'm a member of the Council of Ministers and a member of the Assembly. So it will disseminate down through the line, sir, and the decisions will be made. But as I say, I look forward to seeing the report, sir.
So can I just say that I did ask very specifically, and I've got a very generic answer. I mean, it's about accountability, sir. We just simply do not know.
The answer that the Minister gave specifically, as I heard it, was that it was uncertain as to what his final role was. And I'm not sure the Minister can...
And the final decision will not be mine, sir, alone.
No.
Thank you for that clarity, sir.
Very well. That ends questions with notice. We now come to questions to ministers without notice. The first question period of 15 minutes is for the Minister of Treasury and Resources. Does anyone have any questions for the Minister of Treasury and Resources? You wish to make a procedural proposition, it would have to be at this point. Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. I was just going to ask if this might be an appropriate time to ask if the Assembly wanted to hear the statement from the Minister for the Environment about the fishing licence dispute before questions without notice to the External Relations Minister and the Chief Minister take place, simply because there is every likelihood there may well be some ground covered in both there, and it would strike me as more sensible for the statement to be heard first, as that might answer questions that would get asked in an odd order otherwise.
Well, that's a perfectly proper proposition because it's to do with the ordering of state's business. The first question I must ask is, Minister for the Environment, are you prepared to make the statement at this point if that is what the Assembly wishes you to do?
Yes, sir, I'm entirely ready to do so if the Assembly wishes me to go ahead and give the statement before the second question period, sir. Yes.
Well, the next question is Senator Mezek's proposition seconded?
Seconded, yes, sir.
And you have a question, Senator Moore?
Apologies, sir. That was in relation to what I thought we were going to move to the question period for the Minister for Treasury and Resources.
Very well. Well, the proposition before the Assembly is to take the statement of the Minister for the Environment relating to fishing licences issued under the UK-EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement now before questions to ministers without notice. It's been seconded. Does any member wish to speak on that proposition? If no member wishes to speak, then I think it's a matter I can properly take on a standing vote. Would anyone issue in the chat if they do not agree with that rearrangement of public business? Well, no one has indicated a desire to have a formal vote taken or indicated that they don't agree. Therefore, that proposition is adopted. And as the next item of business, we will take the statement by the Minister for the Environment regarding fishing licences. And there is, as a standard, a 15-minute period of questions available at the end of that in accordance with standing orders. So I'm not sure if the actual statement has been circulated. It's now been placed up onto the chat, and I call upon the Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful for your arranging for the statement to be available in its text form to members. Today, I would like to update the Assembly on the ongoing work of the government to address the important issues we face around fishing licences issued under the UK-EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TECA, and more specifically, the conditions included in those licences. This follows the response last week to the first licence issued to larger vessels following the 4-month amnesty period, which ended on the 30th of April, and a demonstration held in St Helier by fishermen from neighbouring Normandy and Brittany. The Government of Jersey wishes to move beyond recent events and work to find a resolution. And we believe the approach that we communicated to the European Union through the UK at the end of last week makes this achievable. As members will recall, on the 27th of December 2020, the Assembly unanimously endorsed the recommendation of the Council of Ministers that Jersey should be a party to the TECA for goods. And in respect of fishing licences, this decision and the obligations it imposed on the Government of Jersey required amendments to the legislation which regulates fishing activities in Jersey's waters. And the legislative amendments then subsequently gave the government the powers to draft updated licence conditions and ensure that any activity in our waters meet the requirements of the TECA for managed sustainable fishing. And of course, the TECA became legally effective from the 1st of January 2021, and the government moved quickly to establish a 4-month amnesty period, during which time licensing arrangements could be confirmed and the legislation for licensing drawn up. And during the amnesty period, Office of the Marine Resources Team of the Environment IHE reviewed the data which had been supplied by the French authorities via Paris, the European Union Commission and then DEFRA, a long line of communication which was required under the TECA in application for licences from EU vessels to fish in Jersey waters. I presented the required legislation to the Assembly during the April sitting at which it was adopted. And by Friday the 30th of April, the end of the amnesty, we had allocated 41 licences to larger vessels with VMS technology, with another 14 applications pending following receipt of the request for a licence and the associated data. Those applications have been received that very day. And I can add to this statement that today we have now issued an extra licence, so it is now 42 licences have been issued. As members know, the amnesty period for the smaller vessels, this is ones without the vessel management system VMS technology, is still due to run until the 30th of June. And of course, members have seen the response that those licenses we issued on that day and the conditions they included invoked from a significant number of French fishermen. And there are undoubtedly lessons that can be learnt from the position we find ourselves in. The channels of communication required by the TECA have not helped anyone in Jersey, Normandy or Brittany. There has been some misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the terms of the TECA and also of the licenses that we have issued. And so it is not my intention to dwell on the events of last week because we want to move forward. I respect the right of peaceful protest. My Assistant Minister, Deputy Guido, and officers from the Marine Resources and External Relations team met with representatives of the French fishermen on board vessels tied up alongside in our harbour to understand their concerns firsthand. This was a constructive dialogue, and I'm grateful for Deputy Guido for doing that and of the officers for doing so. So to seek a continued de-escalation, I have liaised with the appropriate parties in the EU, again, via the UK, to seek a resolution. And we are willing to give until the 1st of July for those vessels we licensed. We're willing to give them the time to provide additional information as to their historic fishing record. And we will act swiftly to ensure that vessels which submit the required additional evidence to demonstrate their previous record in Jersey waters will have that reflected in their licenses and their activities will not be disrupted. To that end, we have offered to postpone the implementation of individual limits on days at sea and on gear until the 1st of July for licensed vessels. And technical meetings are occurring later today with the EU and the UK, of which we're participating, to further clarify these matters. In addition, we have redeployed fluent French-speaking staff already employed by the government to the Marine Resources team to enable ease of communication for French fishers who contact the team directly. And this will be made easier by the imminent establishment of a direct phone line for these contacts to be made. And we have already discussed this and emailed French fishermen to facilitate their queries. Of course, members will note the order which came out from La Manche Department on Friday evening, closing the Norman ports of Granville, Barneville, Carteret and Gillette for Jersey vessels undertaking commercial operations, including the unloading of fishery products. We referred that via the UK notice of that decision to the Commission, and I am pleased that that decision has now been revoked, as we all are pleased. So our objective remains to find a way forward for all fisheries who have a proven economic link to Jersey waters and return to the cordial, positive relations we have enjoyed for decades with our closest neighbours in Brittany and Normandy. Now, our new licensing regime is needed to achieve a long-term sustainable fishery for all fishermen. And the licensing conditions applied to both EU and our boats will, in time, provide the framework to ensure that we do not exceed maximum sustainable fishing effort, a principle fundamental to the TECA and other international agreements. And in recent years, several of our fish stocks have been declining due to overfishing, and we will need to ensure the effort is reduced. If we are successful, this will ensure that both ourselves and the EU are able to continue to enjoy this valuable natural resource in perpetuity. Both our fishermen and those of the EU have this responsibility. There is work still to do, lessons to learn, bridges to build and relations to reinstate, and this will take time and be ongoing. We have challenges ahead and we should expect difficulties again in the future, but I hope they can be managed more calmly. I've been very encouraged by the assistance offered by several members over the past week and the measured response of colleagues to the challenge we faced. And these have been much appreciated and very important to us as we move forward to deal with this matter. I ask members for their continued support as we navigate our post-Brexit relationship with our neighbours and seek to preserve and strengthen with the links we have in this part of the world. So I'd like to move now to members' questions, which I'll do my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. First question is Deputy Higgins. There's a period of 15 minutes allocated.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister tell us what the European Commission's view was? It was reported that they said that we had broken the agreement when we brought in our licensing. Can you tell us what it is they were actually saying rather than what was reported in the press? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I did see a number of letters. The letter, I can't remember where it was received on Thursday or Friday, but I did see a letter coming from the European Union, from the Commissioner, to the DEFRA, to the Director of Fisheries at DEFRA. And in that letter, it expressed concerns that Jersey had not given sufficient notification of some of the details, and the particular points is that we had taken our legislation through the Assembly and not given notice of that. That took place, of course, in the April sitting, and also they were a number of conditions in the licenses which they considered the notification requirement under the TECA was breached. Obviously that matter required a great deal of attention and focus, and with the advice of our legal officers who went through this very carefully and were certainly involved with the
I'm afraid your feed is frozen, Minister. We've stopped being able to hear you.
It's one of the conditions. We accepted it in another, where this was a conservation measures which had previously been discussed with the French on previous years. So it was regarded that we had previously done so. But nonetheless, a formal reply went to the UK. And as a result of that, the UK then replied. I wrote to George Eustice, the Minister for the Environment, the UK, explaining our position and our response. And that was the basis of further discussions. I think those letters, of course, are part of the diplomatic exchanges that have taken place, and I have been prepared to make those available to the scrutiny panel looking at this matter, sir. I think that's the best way I could answer that one.
I've allowed a little bit more time for your answer there because you froze out at certain points, but the normal rule for answering 1 minute 30 seconds still obtains. Supplementary question, Deputy Higgins.
No, sir, the Minister actually went ahead and said he's prepared to release those documents, so I'm happy with that.
Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. In his speech, the Minister stated that discussions will continue to be passed through the United Kingdom. Could I ask the Minister if he could explain to the Assembly why that remains the case, particularly in light of the consistent messages that have come from parliamentary members in France, one of whom has consistently made this offer to negotiate directly with both Normandy and Brittany, and that minister is MEP and also a member of the EU Fisheries Committee. So well placed to make the suggestion.
Thank you, sir. Well, I think some of that question probably falls to my colleague, External Relations Minister, but I'll do my best to answer from Fishes. Obviously, the task falling to myself and the Marine Resources team is to implement the terms of the TECA as it stands. And the TECA provides the method for communication for the licensing information, which is exactly as I've described. It is a long change process. We decided to join an agreement and participate between the UK and the EU, which prescribes that process. I think one of the snags that I would certainly identify, it was always imagined that that process would be, as it were, overseen by a specialised committee on fishing. But of course, the Senator will know that that committee has not been not in place because of problems in ratification and the delays over the issues.
Supplementary question, Senator?
Not for the moment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Conor Tarverson.
Thank you, sir. I'm firstly pleased to see that the French have been allowed to recommence earning their living from our waters. Can I ask the Minister, and I'm also pleased to see that the French authorities have opened up the Normandy ports, but can I ask the Minister what specific assurances he sought from the Norman authorities that they won't make life difficult for our fishermen trying to land their catches into Normandy? Indeed, they will protect them from any obstruction that takes place. Because clearly it's one thing to say the ports are open, but it's another thing to have the reality that they are or aren't.
So I think that question, it's an absolutely important question, and I agree with it very much, because there's no point in saying in theory, well, you can go there if you want to take the risk, when we getting in. The Marine Resources people are aware that we are being told informally that our people shouldn't go there, and yet the official position is they should. Now, I think that's a question. We've certainly reported the facts, but I think the External Relations Minister would need to deal with the question of what assurances we've sought formally through the international channels.
Supplementary question, Conor Tarverson. Very much, Conor Tarverson, Brillard.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would thank the Minister for his clear statement, which I believe is helpful to all parties. Would the Minister agree that the rushing of P35 through the states without members having time to understand the implications of the legislation was far from satisfactory, and in retrospect, and as a lesson to learn, would have been better deferred until a later date, at which time reasonable scrutiny could have been undertaken? Thank you, sir.
No, sir, I couldn't agree. I think the legislation purely enables. We had, as I said, we didn't get to choose the terms of the TECA. It could have been all sorts of different things. It might have been a neighbourhood agreement power to have that directly with our neighbours. It wasn't. We were presented with an agreement, whether take it or leave it answer. We decided to take it. That meant we had an obligation to put in place the licensing framework to deliver it. That is what we gave ourselves the tools to do when we took it to the states. The issues that have arisen have in terms of the way in which that has been implemented, and the way the licensing framework has been produced to implement that. We did that, and we involved, of course, the scrutiny panel with briefings. My understanding was, and I relied on this, is that the work had gone on right the way through the 4 months with the UK. And the UK gave us very strong guidance in the way they thought that this thing should work. What we've found out, of course, is that then the reaction in France has been negative. And obviously, therefore, there has been this further work to look at those conditions. And that's why we've actually extended to the 1st of July, some of those conditions.
Supplementary question, Conor Tarverson, Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Yes, does the Minister anticipate developing good neighbourly relationships with not only our Brettle neighbours, but the Normandy ones, so that this doesn't happen again? Thank you, sir.
Well, absolutely, of course, sir. Look, it must be axiomatic that we must do that. But of course, the agreement was not of our choosing. We didn't choose to go into Brexit. We had a take it or leave it decision, and we all agreed together that the overwhelming advantages are for Jersey were to go into the agreement. Now, what we've got to do, I think, is got to make it work. It is true to say that our fishing has been unsustainable because of overfishing in the past, and I've been clear about that. And there will need to be conservation measures. What we've got is a framework of licensing that creates a fair way of doing it, so both ourselves and our EU nations and the EU Act can have sustainable fishing. There's going to be a period of adjustment for everybody, and we're finding our way through that process. And if we were able to do it directly, and that's why our direct line of communication will help us, and any offers that members can give to help us how we do that. Because, I'm not the best person, I don't speak French, other members do. I'm sure we can find ways of helping that process.
Deputy Sir Martin.
Thank you, sir. And sir, my information is that the ban on Channel Island boats entering Normandy harbours was only lifted because Guernsey boats were involved, and in fact that a ban on specifically Jersey boats will be reinstated in the extremely near future. But my question is this, sir. At a States members briefing last week, I suggested, almost pleaded with the Minister to just pick up the phone and talk to Normandy people and discuss things directly with them. And can I ask the Minister, has he done that?
The answer is no. I have to accept that I have relied upon the channels in place. There has been communication going on through our Marine Resources team, and certainly I have not done that. So that I put that out there. It needs to happen, but of course my concern was we're working within a very tight, restricted legal framework, and my job was to try and make sure we fulfilled our responsibilities. There is work still to do on this, no question, and I will certainly need help to do it. So.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes.
I accept the Minister's answer, but it's interesting and also inconsistent that the French come to Jersey on their boats. We talk with them in our own harbour over the gunwale of 2 vessels, and yet we can't continue that conversation after they've left. Will the Minister, again, I ask him, will he pick the phone up and talk directly to Normandy to try to resolve these issues?
So, fair question. A record has been made of all the conversation that took place with Deputy Guida on the boat, and I'm so grateful to the Deputy. We have the names of all the fishermen concerned. We have the boats, and we know what their particular complaints were. And my understanding is there were 6, and there was a very representative selection of interests in that. And those are the Marine Resources team are actively looking at those. And of course, I have mentioned the new contact number. And yes, I think we've already received a number of direct contacts over the phone with individual fishers in Normandy, and that system is already happening, sir. But there will need to be, and I think the External Relations Minister, I'm looking forward to his questions to how he thinks we can work together to rebuild relationships, because they do need to be rebuilt.
Deputy Tadier. Deputy Tadier? No. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. In the statement, the Minister said that the government had powers to draft updated licence arrangements, which were given by this Assembly. Can I ask the Minister whether he's confident that the issue, or that these meet the TECA arrangements as understood by all parties, and in particular the issue around the days of fishing on the application, which seem to equate to future days of fishing? Are we certain, is the Minister certain that this situation is clearly understood and agreed upon by all parties involved, because it reflects the terms of the TECA? I hope that question is clear, sir.
So I'm grateful for the question. It's a very technical one. I'll try and summate it. The days at sea condition is related only to mobile gear, i.e. it doesn't relate to whether or not there's what they call static gear, which is pots and so on like that. It relates to those vessels, and it principally applies to the over 12 meters big boats. Now, what we've agreed to do is to disapply that condition, which was included on the 41 or 42 licenses, until the 1st of July. And those technical, and we were assured, and the lawyers have backed it up entirely. That's Jersey's lawyers and the UK lawyers and the UK team that what we were doing was absolutely correct in accordance with the TECA. But obviously, technical meetings are happening this afternoon between those people. I won't be present. That needs to go on about that issue of the days at sea conditions. But the intention is that that condition is intended to reflect what the TECA says, the nature and extent of previous access that needs to continue. So it's the nature and extent is related to the days at sea. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, it was a technical question and a very technical answer, and I thank the Minister for that. Can I ask whether he does believe that time is the solution to this in terms of increased understanding, or is there a risk that we may return to a Granville Bay type agreement but without an agreement, which could really be a problem in the long term? How confident is he that time will solve this issue?
Well, sir, we've got to give it our best shot. We know that before the Brexit agreement that the UK struck with the EU, because myself and Senator Gorst and Deputy Guida, we had conversations with the French minister, and we knew that what they wanted was a neighbourhood agreement. They did not want to have an agreement with this UK-EU arrangement. And indeed, my understanding was that the EU didn't want it either. So that was known, but what we got was what we got. We got an EU agreement. Now, of course, the French have declared their view in the longer term. Well, whether it's the longer term, I think they're probably saying it now, that they would much prefer a neighbourhood agreement. That is not the TECA. We are following the TECA as we stand now. I think you probably have to raise that question with Senator Gorst of what happens next. My view is we've got to give it as good job as we can to try and make the agreement that we've got work as best we can, and try and rebuild the arrangement with the relationship, and because that's in the best interest of the island.
Well, this actually reaches the end of the 15-minute question period. I have 3 members still wishing to ask a question and 1 member wishing to ask a second question, and it is open to the Assembly to agree a 15-minute extension. Does anyone propose that extension?
Yes, sir.
Please, sir. Is that seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does any member wish to speak on the question of whether we should extend for 15 minutes? If any member wishes to vote against that, could they indicate in the chat? Otherwise, I'll take it as a standing vote. Very well. No one's indicated against. We extend the period by a further 15 minutes. Next question is, do members wish that 15 minutes to run now, or does someone call for the adjournment? It can run after the...
Now, please.
Right, no one's proposed the adjournment, therefore we'll continue to run. Next person to ask a question, Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. In the Minister's statement, he says that there has been some misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the terms of the TCA and also the licences that we have issued. Would the Minister confirm whether he believes that misinterpretation and misunderstanding was from one party of those involved, or does he believe that the misinterpretation and misunderstanding occurred on all sides and with all parties? And if not all of them, which ones?
Well, that's a difficult question. I do my best. The conditions and terms are very lengthy, so I'm sure members will have noticed that they've all been published on our gov.je website. All of the published, I think it runs to 7 pages with lots of different schedules and maps. And of course, also the list of vessels to which licenses have been issued in the EU is also linked on the United Kingdom website, along with those vessels that we provided an amnesty. So there is no shortage of information, but I think when the Deputy sees it, he will realise that it is complex. We're fortunate that we have outstanding experts in our marine resources team who have a very good understanding of how the French have operated in the past, and who are not only scientific but and they have produced a scheme which the UK thinks entirely right and appropriate and does the job. Now, but it's clear from the letter from the EU that I saw that there were certainly gaps in that understanding, that I think maybe the European Union, there was obviously a communication gap there at the UN. That's speculation on my part. I accept if I got it wrong, I will have to correct that, sir. But I think you should follow up that question with the External Relations Minister.
Supplementary question, Deputy Morrell?
Yes, please, sir. In his one of his previous answers, he also said that the UK legal advice played an important role in maintaining Jersey's position or establishing Jersey's position. Does the Minister agree that given that UK interests and Jersey interests are not always aligned, that relying so heavily on UK advice for Jersey's to determine Jersey's path in these areas, it is effectively a loss of some of Jersey's autonomy to that this creates a loss of Jersey, some part of Jersey's autonomy, as we are unable to make our own decisions in this area, sir, and our own interpretations.
Well, sir, I mean, that's, you know, where were we? This is an agreement that the UK made with the European Union as a result of Brexit, of where we became a third party, not through choice. We had a decision to make as an assembly whether to enter, to have that participate in that agreement in terms of the terms set out specifically for the 3 Crown dependencies. That, in my view, means that we have an obligation to follow the rules that were set by that arrangement. And that therefore means that it seems to me very appropriate that legal advice is sought, led by our own legal advisors, the Attorney General's law officers team, with the United Kingdom, to ensure that what we are doing is right and proper under the agreement. Now, obviously, it's very different to what happens if you have a neighbourhood agreement where that's entirely. I think the States has already made the choice to participate.
Sir, if I may ask the Minister to address the question in terms of the loss of Jersey's autonomy, and whether he believes Jersey has lost some of that autonomy, sir.
That was part of the question, Minister. Do you have a view on that?
We do not have look. We are party to this. I think I'm going to adopt that one, sir. My efforts at the moment is to do my best to make this agreement work until the situation changes.
Well, I will turn now to Deputy Tadier, who I understand is back connected.
Thank you, sir. So I had that moment of panic where I couldn't find the screen or which part of the screen. So thank you. I'm actually going to amend my question slightly and continue in Deputy Morell's vein, because I thought he hit on something very interesting there. And it's a very simple question to the Minister. Do we actually now have control of our own waters in Jersey?
At the present time, we are moving towards that because we have licenses in place for the larger vessels, and with those limits are in place, which brings the EU fishermen into line with the conditions that our own vessels have, because we haven't been brought in conditions that don't apply to our fleet, and so it brings that more into balance for the larger vessels. But of course, we have still work to do with the smaller vessels where the amnesty ends. Where there is at the moment, if you like, over 200 odd boats that can access our waters, again listed on the website under previous Granville Bay rules, which the fisheries team recognised exceeded the historic effort which the agreement provides.
Supplementary question, Deputy Tadier?
Yes, I'm worried that we're moving towards control of our own waters by complying with what the UK and the EU are telling us that we have to do. But that's not my question. So I suppose there's so many questions to ask, but a simple question is, given that French fisherwomen will now be able to come and fish in Jersey waters, provided they've got a history of doing so in the last 3 years, is it also the case that Jersey fisherwomen will be able to fish in French waters if they choose to do that under the agreement?
It is absolutely, the agreement provides for Jersey boats that have a track record of fishing in French waters to have licenses with the conditions applied, but based on their historic access. There are some Jersey boats who have historically fished in French waters, and those details were sent to the French through the system to apply for licenses. As at the moment, those licenses have not been issued, and there's been no response from the French authorities for those requests. All that evidence has been submitted for those boats. So that is the current position, which is obviously a very one-sided arrangement.
Constable St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Are there any plans to establish a permanent forum between our very near neighbours, Normandy, and ourselves to deal with these issues? As it seems strange that there's been no clarity on creating a permanent facility for dialogue for this.
I think the Constable is absolutely spot on. It's something that I have asked to be set up, which is what I would call a liaison committee. In the past, there were joint meetings. The structure of the Bay of Granville Agreement used to mean is that fishermen from our fishing people met with the Normans and the Bretons regularly. Although I have to be frank and say relationships did break down following Brexit in certainly at least a year that I'm aware of, because of the tensions of Brexit. But nonetheless, the problem is that decisions had to be made jointly between Jersey and France, which they never got made. The new arrangement provides for Jersey to make those decisions, but it's absolutely right. There is a method of consultation and discussion, and that is something which I have asked to be set up, a liaison body, and I'm hopeful that we can get that, to keep that, to improve communications. That's a really important principle. So I back that 100%.
Supplementary question, Constable?
No, thank you, sir.
Deputy IA.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister accept that closing certain areas to fishermen for scientific investigations into bream numbers was ill-timed and could easily have been delayed by a year while delicate negotiations took place? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, it could have been. What we have, the history has been, is that complaints were made to me by Jersey fishermen that our bream stocks are very valuable, and they are in particularly sensitive areas of our marine environment. And there has been complaints about dredging through those areas that have caused damage. And so what was done, a proposal was put to the French last year, I believe, or to have those areas closed for a short period to allow that study to take place. It could have been deferred, but the problem is that this very time, April and May, is the time that bream spawn, and so therefore the conservation arguments are overwhelmed. They're quite small areas, and they won't expect very many boats at all. But obviously, it is open to stop it. At the moment, have not done so.
Supplementary question, Deputy IA?
Nothing further, sir.
Very much. Deputy St Mary.
Thank you, sir. I simply wish to clarify a point raised by Deputy Morell's question. The Minister will recall that he kindly invited me to a briefing on Thursday evening after the meeting with the French fishermen. And during that meeting, I understood that all actions taken were very much in accordance with legal advice we had received from our law officers. Is he able to confirm that that remains the case, and that if there was legal advice given by the UK legal department, then there was no disagreement between the two, and that there is therefore unanimity on that score? Thank you.
I believe that is the case, and I'm grateful for the Deputy for his question. I should have emphasised that. The information available to me is that our law officers are entirely satisfied with what we've done.
Thank you for that.
A supplemental question, Deputy St Mary?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second question, Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has mentioned something that does concern me, and that is that there are over 200 boats in France that believe they should be allowed to carry on fishing in the waters, and who may not be able to prove that they have historical rights. How is the Minister going to deal with this situation when they've got the expectations that they're going to be successful in being allowed to continue fishing in Jersey waters? Thank you.
So I mentioned that intentionally to realise the scale of the problem. There is a problem ahead. And what the team are going to have to do, and we've agreed to be as flexible as we can to look at any source of available information for those non-VMS, that's the computer equipment equipped boats, so that we ensure that any French or EU fisher that's got a record of past access and qualifies and gets a license. That work's to be done. We've got a few weeks to do it, and that's why the communication processes we've set up are absolutely vital to help us do that.
Supplementary question? Yes.
Can the Minister tell us, obviously, those who don't get licensed are going to be very disgruntled. How are they going to head off future problems of either blockades, either in French ports or in Jersey waters?
So I think the deputy is looking for a panacea of me being able to produce a solution on the moment which solves it all. I've been quite open and said we've made some concession. There is issues still to resolve, and this situation changes by the day. And so at the moment there are technical meetings going on, and I've absolutely no doubt there will be meetings about going on regarding those details. But I can say now, if the deputy looks at the UK website where those vessels are all listed, he'll also find there's equivalent number in our neighbours to the north as well, in Guernsey, who of course have decided to leave the issue of conditions for a later date.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. That brings the further question period for the Minister to an end. Is the adjournment proposed?
Yes, Chair, I oppose.
Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15.